two and two. When you promised we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah, I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, 'cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology. Just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're sorry.
Join our membership program, sign up, find out what's going on, become a patron, and support our work. We're doing these amazing virtual live streams covering events, marches, protests, and actions that mainstream media just isn't covering.
A lot of these very common sense policy interventions aren't given the space they need.
You know, the truth is, before we have the political revolution, we need a media revolution.
We really see this opening in the media space with television transitioning to the internet in particular. Streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, etc., are the next frontier.
And we're not mainstream media. You're not getting a 10-second clip and a very watered down, whitewashed version of what's going on.
Having a media company to support these kind of movement efforts is extremely valuable.
People want to talk to us because they know that we're talking to the people.
We need a dedicated, empowered, honorable base of people who are willing to fight for what they believe in.
This needs to be all of us, not just like watching great content, not just sharing great content, but taking the correlated action and making sure that together these movements are more effective across the board.
We are amplifying activists' messages, activist movements, activist campaigns, activist call to action. There's no more important work to be done in this country right now, and ACT TV is doing it, and we need you to be a member. Go to act.tv and sign up to be a member today.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. I want to begin this morning with Solidarity Wednesdays. As always, we are joined by our friend, our sister from another Mr. Nomiki Konst of the Nomiki Show. Good morning, Nomiki. How are you?
I'm spectacular. I'm on the island of Puerto Rico and couldn't be better. Doing work, to be fair. I have not seen the sun. I wish I had.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have to tip my hat to you. If I was on the island of Puerto Rico, I would not be calling in to do anyone's show, anyone's work. But here you are standing in solidarity with us from Puerto Rico. I tip my hat to you because you should be on the beach somewhere right now.
I should be on the beach, but I'm filming a documentary down here, so as you can hear, my voice is going a little bit. So I'm enjoying the weather. I like it. I love the people. Okay. I'm here all the time, but I think it's been a while since I've seen the beach.
Absolutely. Okay. So you're there for work. And so we are here for work this morning. And unfortunately, we do have to begin in Russia. I want to begin with last week, the Biden administration told reporters that he considered Vladimir Putin to be a war criminal. This has been now followed up with Russia summoning the U.S. ambassador over war crimes label. Russia says that it has summoned the United States ambassador to the country over President Joe Biden's recent comments labeling his counterpart Vladimir Putin as a war criminal amid the invasion of Ukraine. In a statement on Monday, the Russian Foreign Ministry said it summoned U.S. Ambassador John Sullivan as ties between Moscow and Washington were on the verge of collapse. Now, there's a little bit more information here from Al Jazeera, but Nomiki, I wanted you to jump in there and tell us what you think about these events.
I think that's you're poking the bear, right? When you say something like that, and I really truly hope that when Biden did say that on the record, he was aware of what he was doing. I really hope so. Yesterday, I watched an interview on CNN International with the spokesperson for the Kremlin, who has been doing his rounds for a bit. And when asked whether or not Putin would potentially use the ultimate option, the nuclear option, he sort of danced around it and said Putin will do whatever it takes to do what's right, essentially. And, everybody's jaw dropped. In the room when I was watching it, when Christiana Amanpour, her jaw dropped, we all just said, what, at the same time? And I heard her say, what? Right. I think these are unprecedented times that when you study political science, you game theory this stuff out quite a bit. And people who have master's degrees and decades of experience and who lived through the Cold War and every iteration of the Cold War. And I think that this is, you can only prepare so much for this. But then there's the factor of Putin, who, people say he's not a rational actor, or he's a rational actor, just behaving the way he always has behaved. I think that's like the traditional definition of the word. I think he's always been an irrational actor. It's just the just like everybody else, on this planet. The pandemic, the stress of the loneliness, all of these things get to you. And I think it also affects global leaders who may have not always been the most rational in their lives, but when pushed, become irrational.
I would offer that. I would offer that all of our theories need to be updated for the irrational actor, because whether or not Vladimir Putin is gaming this out based on realism, right? If we're, talking about the theories, the hidden secret of international relations has always been whoever is willing to break the system can not necessarily take the system, but obviously they have the advantage. And this is what Vladimir Putin has seized upon. I would offer that even going to the full extent of Vladimir Putin's foreign policy experts' conclusions, it's still irrational for him to get on national television or international television and to give any hint towards the willingness to use nuclear weapons, especially because this war is ultimately rooted in Putin's ego, right? This is not a legitimate war. Speak to that for me.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, it's a tale as old as time that you have emperors and kings and egomaniacal, usually male leaders who send the globe on the brink of destruction. And, it's not, I know we always say World War II, and if we could go back in history and kill Hitler earlier, but this has been going, since the beginning of tribes invading other tribes. Let's be real. It's ego. And we haven't still, as evolved as we are as a society, really created the mechanisms to prevent this type of behavior. We've tried to, where it's imperfect, and every single, democratic country that is formed, on their own, hopefully due to their own will, tries their best, but it doesn't happen overnight. It still hasn't happened here. Right. And I think democracy, my belief is democracy is the best way to prevent these behaviors from happening, because you don't have absolute rule, hopefully. And, you have term limits if they're operating properly. But I don't know where we go from here. I'm at a loss of words. I think our dependency on oil and gas, Europe's dependency on oil. Let's actually think about it this way. We are about to go into more extreme form of inflation. We're about to have worse inflation due to this crisis. We already had bad inflation, and they were saying it was about to end or weaken or lessen a little bit. And then this escalates everything. You're seeing the global world do everything they can, use all the mechanisms possible to prevent this from happening. It's serious when they're willing to go in basically a global recession to stop this man. And I don't know what ultimately you can do at this point. They pressured his wife, his mistress, whatever they call her, his friends, the oligarchs. I don't know.
I think one thing, if I could make an assertion, I would say the thing that the international community needs to do is to stop legitimizing, remove the legitimacy from Vladimir Putin and temporarily from Russia, because I want to make sure everyone understands this is not against Russia. It is unfortunate that this is happening to Russia, but it is happening because of Vladimir Putin. If the international community rejects his validity, that has to, because I know that is a bold step, but because let's be sure, invading Ukraine was a bold step. And if we continue to treat Vladimir Putin as if he is a reasonable actor who we could sit down at the table with, now that doesn't mean we go to the battlefield, but most certainly we can stop treating him as if he is a rational actor and govern ourselves accordingly. If I were to be so bold to make an assertion, Nomiki, get the last thought on that. And I want to get some more thoughts on other stories.
I think that's part of the strategy. And I don't know what the right pace is. Isolate. Put the guy in a corner so he has nowhere to go. And maybe that's what the oligarchs are working on right now, because there's a point where he's going to realize he has to find an end strategy. And if he doesn't have an exit strategy and he has nowhere to go, and his oligarch friends can't help him, and he can't get on a ship, and he can't get on a private plane, and he can't go to some island and just live the rest of his life in exile. Lots to think about there.
Right. And that's when we have to consider the irrational actor in our theories and in our models, because I think any reasonable observer would say we have a couple of irrational actors who have taken power on the international stage in the recent years. Here's some updates on what's going on in the world of automation. Engineers are focusing on a long-haul freight software that could replace 90% of trucking. Study is suggesting that self-driving trucks itself could replace 500,000 U.S. jobs. And I want to be sure this is going to target truckers. And this is according to Bloomberg via Automotive News. Autonomous driving engineers are focusing their efforts on perfecting long-haul freight. Most interstate trucks lack anything more than complex that slow curves or easy pass lanes. This means that those routes pose less of a challenge for engineers. Self-driving trucks can easily navigate interstates, but short trips outside of that route presents challenges. So they couldn't get it on the streets with individual cars, the next target. And again, like in general, I think most people feel self-driving cars is a decent idea moving us towards the future. But there is the consideration of the truckers, and it seems like they may have a good shot. Engineers and companies may have a good shot at taking over that industry first.
I know there's science behind this. I get it. I'm going to get tweets about it. This freaks me out for safety reasons, obviously for worker reasons too, but for safety reasons. It's a very dangerous job. And, there's been a lot of pressure put on truckers. Because of this whole trucker situation, I went down the rabbit hole of reading about truckers. And I have an uncle who's a long haul trucker, and he has to go through multiple exams regularly to make sure he's keeping his license up to date. There is he does this because he in his mind, he thinks he makes a lot of money because he puts in double hours, and he had his ex-wife used to go out on the road with him. So when he would sleep, she would drive. I mean, they didn't really have a life. It's lonely. It's hard. The more the roads are in disarray in this country, it makes it more difficult. There have been more accidents since the pandemic, last couple of years. So I don't know how that affects truckers, but I know, we're all on the road together. If this is something that increases safety, okay, but I don't know. I'm just not there yet. It's just, I know the planes drive themselves, but they're not brushing up against car. I'm already scared when I drive down the road against two, no. Can't honk. What are they going to do? They can't move. They're not going to move if you honk.
I feel you. I think that the technology would definitely be safer. There's going to have to be a lot of beta testing here, right? They're going to have to make sure that these trucks are not running people off the roads. One of the number one things I noticed when I moved back to Atlanta was that the abundance of 18-wheelers everywhere. I had to just get used to. See, in Boston, you just had to get used to what we called mass holes, just drivers who were just, jerks on the road. They were everywhere. Come down to Atlanta, you replace those, everybody's happy and, honking their horns and hey, neighbor, but you're inundated with 18-wheelers everywhere. So I agree with you. I have no idea how this is going to work in terms of safety, even though I think what we're currently doing is unsafe, especially because when an accident happens, there's no accountability for the companies and there's all the accountability for the drivers. I'm thinking of that poor driver who was put into a bad truck. The brakes went out and unfortunately, the truck killed several people and they tried to give him 200 years. So I think we have to address what's happening right now, as well as the potential for this technology.
Absolutely. I mean, that case out of Colorado was horrifying. And I'm sure there's many more like this that we're just not even aware of. The other side of this is this is a product of our consumption habits. We don't want truck drivers to lose their jobs. And of course, we're seeing their frustration or a portion of the trucking industry's frustration acted out in these vax mandates and, their protests. But this is also just a reflection of our extraordinary consumption. I don't know how we have a larger conversation after inflation, after seeing supply chain issues after talking about free trade and seeing our reliance on our partners and, not so nice friends that are our partners who can play with the economy to punish us. This is all about our consumption. We are a consumer economy. We rely on goods from China who have pieces from other parts of the world, and then they're shipped on Greek ships, and then they, enter through multiple ports. I mean, it's the economic warfare is warfare. We are actually at war right now, whether or not we're conscious of it or not. We're at war.
That's right. And to be honest with you, I often wonder how much of the payload that our truckers, because I've been to, there's pretty much not a truck stop on the I-10 corridor that I haven't been to. And I go into the gas stations with the rest of the truckers. Like, I'm not a trucker, but I drive, and I've driven some pretty big trucks across the country, but not an 18-wheeler. But anyway, I digress. The point is, it is lonely. It is, you're lucky if you get a really clean gas station. Right. And those places that have the cleanest gas stations, sometimes, you got to go to church if you want to go to use their showers. Right. They have these weird stipulations in these backwoods cities. So I really do think that the emphasis has to be on the drivers here because they are the backbone. But I wonder, Nomiki, how much of their payload is nothing but junk? How much of their loneliness is a result of them shipping plastic widgets that are coming from China or coming from wherever and ultimately just going to fill our landfills in about 6 months?
I don't know if there's ever been an assessment of like, I don't know how many trucks are on the road every day. I don't know which companies. I mean, I'm sure there's many trucks that are working with many companies, but like, it would be interesting. It'd be a great study to see, with the largest, whether it's Walmart or Target, you list the biggest companies that sell the most goods in this country. Amazon, of course, Amazon. Yeah. And it'd be interesting to see a breakdown of what they're selling and what they're, what's being imported the most. They know, they have the data.
This is the thing that's a little bit bothering to me, Pastor Galloway, and maybe you can help me with this. The New York City is ending vaccine mandate for athletes and performers. The latest COVID rollback, despite potential wave from the BA2 variant. I want to read from ABC 7 New York. New York City Mayor Eric Adams on Thursday exempted athletes and performers, including Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving, from the city's vaccine mandate, while keeping in place the rule for countless other workers who faced losing their jobs for refusing to get vaccinated. The city's sweeping vaccine mandate still applies to many, including private workers and government employees. And critics of the decision, including several public employee unions whose members were fired for not getting vaccinated, blasted the mayor for seeming to lift the rule only for wealthy and famous athletes. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are about this specifically, but more generally, the move that this country is making to, I don't know, give a head fake as though the pandemic is actually over.
Yeah, a lot of the conversations in the area that I am and across many different sectors is this question about shifting to the personal responsibility of the individual rather than the mandates of government or city leaders, and it's sparking a whole lot of debate and issues. I have a congregation that is very split on this very specific issue. I have a lot of folks who are saying that this needs to shift into the responsibility of other folks and government needs to get out of it. I have other folks who are saying that this is government's failing to protect folks. And then of course the unfairness for which the choices seem to be made. I think there's also some concern amongst some of my parishioners around what is driving the decisions to roll these back. All right. When everyday local citizens are asking for the rollback in the shift, there doesn't seem to be an ear. But if you have power, money, if there's some kind of economic get, right, or social get for it, all of a sudden these are up for consideration. And so I think there's some questions to be asked in that regard. And I'm facing them, and we're facing those same discussions where we are. At the same time, mandating vaccines, shifting to, I've got folks who are saying, well, why don't we just shift to if you're sick, stay at home. We've switched to basically the conversation about treating this as endemic as opposed to pandemic. Right. And then of course you've got the complication for the BA2 variant. So there's a lot of that conversation amongst my parishioners trying to figure out what is going forward. And this decision in New York kind of complicates that conversation in some really interesting ways. So yes, I'm absolutely seeing it where I am.
Before we move on, I do want to say, to me, I might have my conspiracy theory hat on all the time. I think the complication is the thing, because it seems to be an overwhelming consensus amongst the powerful that we are going to pretend as though this is now endemic instead of, like you said, still a pandemic. And it feels like a decision like this creates a complication that shifts the argument away from whether or not we all should still be hunkering down, right? We're so far removed from whether or not we should still be shutting down with 10,000 people dying a week over the past few weeks. And now the conversation is whether or not the rich are getting an exemption from the vaccine. That complication, to me, moves us one step further away from the real conversation. What do you think about that?
Well, and there's another complicating factor in that regard, and that is, when I talk about my parishioners, I'm talking about a group or a community of folks who are 99% vaccinated, boosted, and still practicing, personal precautions in that regard. I mean, we as a church body still haven't voted to go back into person. We've kind of got a soft open phase in our COVID response plan where we can do small group meetings, socially distant and things like that. But we're not full in-person worship yet because of their. So the conversation in our neck of the woods is very different than a place that has still seeing hospital overrun. Our hospital overrun has plateaued and is receding now, right? The chapel at the largest hospital just a few blocks away from us is no longer being repurposed for COVID, being taxed for COVID patients. And so it's a very different conversation in areas that have that level of precaution than in others. And so I think one of the challenges that we have is, region by region and area by area, you have a different set of concerns that are driving it. I think it would be very different. We were having a very different conversation. This would have lit my entire area on fire if we were back in the places where our hospitals were overrun, which is the most prescient marker that folks could see, touch, feel in our community and area. And so that's another complication that's been there for us is we've got a whole lot of responsible folks where I'm at. That's not the same as places, even regardless of how you feel about vaccine, getting the vaccine or things like that. We have a general agreement in our area that masking, socially distancing, not being around other people when you're sick has been socially acceptable where I am. So we haven't had to have certain fights that other folks have to have. Even though the politics may be involved with it. Yeah.
The differences between the Duluths, apparently, the differences between the Duluths is whether or not how people take this pandemic. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be on the clock with Georgia 4th. The Benjamin Dixon Morning Show will be back after this.
Don't say you love me, take away, leave me. Can't get ugly, trust and believe me. Say it to myself, looks so deceiving. Trying to fight back to far from easy. I see your hands. To my don't you know my life?
Good morning, people. Y'all know who it is. You know the one y'all know the sound. James Williams, DJ Exclusive is in the building. Good morning, everybody.
This beautiful distraction. Fell in love with a fatal attraction. I really let my guard down, now relaxing.
There we go. Good morning.
But I'm all ain't got nothing back. I'm feeling so ashamed. I fell into your game. Why you gotta do me like that? Love me.
Anyway, y'all, good morning. Welcome again to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. On the Clock is coming up next with Georgia 4th. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. Good morning, everybody. Right, David. I know I don't either.
Gave you all of me, had me so deceived. You chose to lead my life, so my own in a cycle.
Sonny Wright, good morning. 1ATL Country Boy, good morning, Mama and Daddy. Love y'all, need it. Stephanie, good morning. Roller Dragon, what's going on? Snack Panther. And it still hurts. As soon as the show is over, I am headed on to the good old doctor. Yes, I is. Jessica Barrow, good morning to you. Rachel Ryan, good morning. Tiger, what's going on? Miss Nuru, good morning to you. Jason, good morning. Lena L, good morning. Amber Layla, good morning to you. Shosty 100. Julie, what's going on?
I bought a house in Cabo to shake off my cargo. It went a little bit far though.
Indian Brown, good morning to you.
Now 6 by Arsenal. I didn't drive my car home when I drank that charcoal. Man, I
good morning, Esther.
Ask me how it feels.
Jonathan Hawkins, good morning. Iris Jones.
When you pick a speed, what's pitch black weed? Well, you got your thoughts. I'll be in there deep. What about your heart? The speed too hard.
Stilettos, what's going on?
Yeah, I called
Elizabeth Lonzo, good morning.
Said I won't be calling. Instead of my old tempo. It wouldn't make much sense, so yeah. Ask me how it feels. I say it feels surreal. When you pick up speed. What's the pitch black weed? When you got your thoughts.
Six Dragon Daddy, what's up, Chronos?
What about your heart?
Laverne, Juanita, good morning. Drake Natasha, good morning to you. Sunny Wright, what's going on? Rachel Bailey, good morning. Alicia, good morning, Alicia. Good morning, Miss Sophia. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got more coming up next. You don't want to miss it. Y'all stay tuned.
My God, can't take my eye off you. Can't take my eye off you. Dim guy, don't got nothing on you. Don't got nothing on you. My heart is ready for something I have been had in a long time. True love crime. I hope you know that it may hurt for a while. Let's slow down, slow down. I can see behind that broken smile. Nice, sweet, smooth, like cocoa bread, cocoa bread. You're nice, sweet, smooth, like cocoa bread, cocoa bread. You're nice, like cocoa, you're nice, like cocoa bread, like cocoa bread. Oh, you're nice, like cocoa, you're nice, like cocoa bread, like cocoa bread. Ooh, driving dick, watch a movie. Right by your side on duty.
All right, y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up next. On the clock, starting on this show. You know what it is.
Let me know how you feel. Hope I'm not in too deep. Liwa, Phoebe, Ida, Fever. Won't be alone forever. Get through the storm together. Two girls make some room. I know you still, you're nice, sweet, smooth, like cocoa bread, cocoa bread. You're nice, sweet, smooth, like cocoa bread, cocoa bread. You're nice, like cocoa, you're nice, like cocoa bread, like cocoa bread. Oh, you're nice, like cocoa, you're nice, like cocoa bread.
Right, Mr. New. Shout out to Jamaica as well, too. Fighting for their independence. They want to become a republic. I appreciate it. All right, y'all. I think we are ready. On the clock. Dwayne, are we ready? All right. Here we go, y'all. It's time. On the clock. Starts right now. Good morning, y'all.
But I still wanna.
Good morning. We are back now, joined by our partners at ACT TV, Jocelyn McCurdy Keats, who is the ACT TV DC correspondent, and Alex Lawson, who is a political director. They're joining us outside of the Supreme Court Live, where we are now on day 4 of the coverage of the confirmation hearing for Ketanji Brown Jackson. First and foremost, good morning to both of you. Tell us what you are seeing on the ground there. And is there any excitement or is there any gatherings around? What are you seeing there in DC?
So good to be here with you this morning, Ben. And there actually is a ton of excitement. There have been, I don't know, what would you call it, protest actions in support of Judge Jackson. She's this poise, under incredible duress. These Republicans, they were incredibly inappropriate. Own colleague referred to their foolishness and mugging for the camera. It's just out of control. There's been a lot of support from her, both on the ground and across the country.
Right. Alex, speaking of some of the things that are out of control, we've been watching every day where the arguments coming from Republican senators get more and more ridiculous. Do they have any actual argument that can stick? Because otherwise, it seems like they're wasting America's time with some of their rambling.
Yeah, as per usual, they're wasting America's time with their rambling. The whole game here is they are actually just trying to drag this out as long as possible. They're looking for a mistake that they can exploit, and we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is, Lindsey Graham just looking unhinged. But the asymmetricalness of what happens is important to note, that they don't get in trouble for that, right? Like there's no penalty for Graham looking just ridiculous and just acting like a fool, or any of the other Republicans. So they can go as hard as they want because the media will basically be like, it's just boys being boys. It's just Republicans are terrible people. That's what we expect from them. And on the other hand, if she makes one mistake, it'll be just the thing, just the clip on TV over and over and over again. And that's what they're trying to do, drag it out and look for a mistake on camera that they can then turn into an ad. They're not bound by truth. They're not bound by some sense of decency. The Republicans have absolutely no shame. They're not hypocrites because they don't believe in anything, nothing but power. So that's all we're seeing here is this really disgusting DC process.
Absolutely. I love that. They're not hypocrites because they don't stand for anything except for power. I think that is the most succinct definition of a Republican. I want us to listen to a clip. This is of Judge Jackson responding and pushing back to Tom Cotton, Senator Tom Cotton, as he questioned her about her role in representing and standing on behalf of Guantanamo Bay detainees. Let's take a listen in.
So no opinion on whether America would be safer or less safe if we released all the detainees from Guantanamo Bay?
Senator, America would be less safe if we don't have terrorists out running around attacking this country. Absolutely. America would also be more safe in a situation in which all of our constitutional rights are protected. This is the way our scheme works. This is how the Constitution that we all love operates. It's about making sure that the government is doing what it's supposed to do in a time of crisis. As Justice Gorsuch said, the Constitution is not suspended in times of crisis. The government still has to follow the rules. And so criminal defense lawyers make sure that in times of crisis, the government is following the rules.
Okay, let's turn to the actual cases.
I think, what they're trying to do there is, because of her work as a public defender and her work on behalf of criminal defendants, in some cases, they're trying to hold her accountable for any action. And we see in this next clip, they're actually trying to lay, and actually we're going to go with A2, Dwayne. Tom Cotton is trying to lay at her feet the reoffense of a child sex offender that was connected to her, Judge Jackson, during her time as a judge. This is in their effort, as you said, Alex and Jocelyn, to basically try to make anything stick. Let's take a listen to this second clip.
Have any recollection of it? Let me see if I can refresh your recollection. This is the order you signed, Judge, on April 17th, 2019, in USA v. Hawkins. And it says that you concur with the recommendation of the probation office to return him to a residential reentry facility for 180 days and to engage in various kinds of computer monitoring and computer monitoring and search. There's your signature over there, Judge. You really don't remember what?
Senator, that is a very, very common thing that judges do. I've sentenced over 100 people, and supervised release, which is the kind of post-incarceration condition that judges ordinarily impose, is something that's done on a standard form, which is what that is.
I understand you've done a lot, Judge, but none of them have been the centerpiece of your hearing for the last 2 days. Do you really expect this committee to believe that you don't remember what happened in this Hawkins case when it came back before you?
Yes, Senator, I do expect you to believe that's my testimony.
Well, I don't find it credible, Judge. It's been in the news for days. Senator Durbin has cited it being in the news for days. You've been asked about it probably more than any other case you've ever had. And I just don't find it credible that you weren't prepared for that matter in 2019. You know what I think? I think he got caught with child pornography again, and he wouldn't have if he had been in prison for the 8 to 10 years the guidelines called for in 2013 when you first sentenced him.
I want to bring you to the conversation, as always, Georgia Fort on the clock with investigative journalist Georgia Fort. And we are also joined again by Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats and Alex Lawson, both of our partners at ACT TV. I just want to send this question around the table to everyone. It really seems as though they're okay with the absurdity. They're okay with being known as these senators who drug this justice through the mud, not because there was actual things against her, but because they had to put on a show. And I feel, George, I want to come to you first. I feel like we saw that frustration in the eyes of Judge Jackson. I just want you to jump in there, and good morning to you.
Good morning, and it is a pleasure to be on with you all live from D.C. You know, I definitely saw that yesterday, especially when we heard one senator asking about the anti-racist baby book, you know, and just continuously interrupting her. And I think what my question is, you know, how much of this is stemming from what happened to Kavanaugh, people being upset and frustrated because that was the nominee that they wanted to see get through, and how much of this culture is coming after Trump, right? So many folks hoping that he was going to get back in, and now upset about that even, you know, and it feels like there is some remnants of that culture from that administration that is continuing to corrupt our political body.
That's a great question. Jocelyn or Alex, if you would.
Well, I love everything Georgia said. I couldn't have put it better myself. And I think that anybody watching Judge Jackson's performance, if you want to call it that, which is unfortunate that this has devolved into theater, is just like, you're going to feel the fury of this woman was editor of the Harvard Law Review. She served this nation as a judge. She served this nation as a public defender, taking on some of the hardest cases to uplift this democracy, and to have her be grilled by barely literate reactionary white supremacist is going to infuriate anybody who has ever had to watch an overqualified black woman be just egregiously emotionally harassed by white men who aren't 1/16 of the person she is. And, you know, it's funny, my mom isn't even a political person, and she sent me what Judge Jackson said about her daughters. You know, I have not always hit the work balance correctly, but to my daughters, I love you. And it just really hurt and touched me to think of all the women out there who are doing 20 times the work they need to do and still carry the guilt of the fact that this democracy is not what it should be. Meanwhile, we have, as Georgia said, the culture of Trump, the culture of egotism, the culture of white supremacy, which makes no apology and makes a mockery of this public process.
Absolutely. Alex, jump in there with you if you would.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I mean, I can just be meaner about the Republicans. I mean, like literally Tom Cotton, the only reason he's not the dumbest person in the Senate is because Ron Johnson is also in there. So like the thought that this man, who is literally a fascist, he called for troops to be put in the street to put down peaceful protests that are protected by the Constitution. The thought that this man has anything to say about Judge Jackson's nomination is ridiculous, but that's actually the dance that is done in this town. The purpose of it is to survive through this process and not lose your cool, and she is not losing her cool at all, and that's the goal. So they will pay, the Republicans will pay no price for what they've done. In fact, they'll probably get a ton of money and attaboys. The crazier they are, the more unhinged they are, the more likely that they are to be brought on Fox News. Wow. That's what they're doing. They're mugging for the camera. And Tom Cotton, you know, he's got his eyes on the White House. So that's what this is all about to him. It's just an opportunity for these craven cowards to advance their own political careers.
Whew. Alex, I'm so glad that you actually did get in there and say something more, because that's exactly what I needed to hear. Alex Lawson, political director for ACT TV, and Jocelyn McCurdy Keats, ACT TV's DC correspondent, both joining us live from outside of the Supreme Court. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Georgia, I want to come full circle to you because, you know, it is frustrating. I can scarcely watch this without, you know, my blood pressure going up, and I have pretty good blood pressure, but to see her exposed to constant inundation of stupidity, it's the insult on top of the injury.
Absolutely. Well, what I love is that she remains composed. You know, rarely do we hear her over talking anyone, even when she's interrupted multiple times. And I think that's a testament to her character and her integrity. But also, you know, it's so easy for Black women to be misinterpreted as being the angry Black woman. And so I feel like some instances, you can almost see her overcompensating, where she'll be mid-sentence, mid-thought, and she'll be interrupted for the 10th time, and she just backs down and she'll listen. But she also did, when she was asked about her values as a judge, and when she talked about, you know, the judges that had mentored her and her clerkships and what she learned, one of the values she talked about was listening, and how important it was to be able to truly assess the facts in a case and to also be able to lead with empathy. And so I think she's also demonstrated, not only has she communicated her values very, very well, but she's also demonstrated them under some really tough circumstances. I feel like there have been more people who, you know, have interrogated her and brought up Kavanaugh and confronted her with racism than there have been people who acknowledged the wealth of experience she's bringing to the table and how much she could add, and that she is overqualified for this position. But needless to say, Ben, what this would do for our nation to have a Black woman at the Supreme Court, what it would do for young women, young law students of color, it would just be tremendous. And I think that she would do more than add value. I think that she would bring some much needed change to the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sister Ford, I'm always excited when you join us. I have had a chance to go to your timeline, and you are presenting a new investigative series entitled What Happened to Ralph Bell. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Ralph Bell went missing in December of 2018, and his girlfriend, who he had children with, almost immediately went to police saying, you know, something's wrong. And actually, if I remember correctly, his car was found. And so she found out that his vehicle was left abandoned. The car was running, the door was open, very unusual circumstance. And it was that indicated to her something was seriously wrong. Even though it had been a short window of time since he was missing, she knew something was wrong. And so she went to police. They lived in Stillwater, Minnesota, which has been known for different racist incidents. And so police there kind of just shrugged her off. And it took about 10 days, I believe, before they actually, you know, filed a missing persons report legitimately. And those 10 days are critical. Anybody who watches, you know, first 48 hours or anything like that, the first few days are very critical. And they lost that because the Stillwater Police Department, many think had implicit bias and felt like this was a Black man who had abandoned his family or had stepped out with another woman, or was just off doing his own thing. But they didn't think that he was missing, especially not just in the first 24 hours. And so what happened over a course of 3 months, there were mainly searches that were led by the family, but 3 months later, they ended up finding his body. He had multiple wounds, including one slit across his neck, another one in his abdomen area, and then his wrists. And so the question became, when the medical examiner ruled it a suicide, but also finding the knife in his pockets and a number of other very unusual things. The question became, how could he commit suicide? And still to this day, that's the determination that has been made. Ralph, his girlfriend, was pregnant at the time when he went missing. And so one day after his body was found, their son was born. So he has a 3-year-old son now who was born one day after his body was found. And I've had a chance to speak with his mother, his girlfriend, several other people close to the case. And the odd thing, Ben, is no one agrees on what happened to Ralph, but everybody agrees they don't think he committed suicide. And so you through this audio investigative series, you will hear me present all of the evidence, uncover new evidence, and really examine the timeline, the investigation, and try to uncover what happened to Ralph Bell.
Wow. There's so much there, Georgia. I'm hearing so many stories across the country. You know, there seems to be a trend around the country of police agencies deciding to just close the book on cases without any proper investigation. And the overwhelming skin color of most of these cases that I've come across so far, actually not the overwhelming, all of them are Black. And it sounds like in this case, there's so many outliers that just scream for investigation, like dig into this and figure out what happened to this young man. And you're saying that they're still keeping this particular case as a suicide. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yep. And
wow.
And in the audio series, we're going to examine why. What was it? After doing a lot of interviewing, I was able to understand what it was that made them make that determination, and then also offer another side to that, because there are some very unusual things when you look at the way that this case was investigated and access to information, that has made it extremely challenging to get a second opinion that would be different than the original opinion that has been submitted. And so that's been a struggle for the family. But, you know, Ben, I walked into this as a journalist with the mindset that there was a potential that maybe Ralph did commit suicide, and that could be the end of the road. Potentially, that could be the conclusion of my investigation. I had to go in with that objective mindset. And so what I am presenting is an objective look at the facts, listening to everybody who is involved, and to your point about reinvestigation, asking a very critical question. Well, I mean, how much unusual evidence, things that don't add up, does there have to be before agency says, you know, that actually this does merit a reinvestigation? We should re-examine evidence. And so it will be a 3-part series we're hoping to release in the next month. And I'm really excited to take people along this journey with me in my pursuit to uncover what really happened to Ralph Bell.
I am so disturbed by the story and the different stories that match this, but I'm glad to know that you're on the case, George. I'm glad to know that you are bringing light to this, and anything we could do, obviously, to share portions of it and to amplify. Where can people go? I'm assuming GeorgiaFort.com. Is there anywhere else they should go to get this podcast?
Yeah, well, if you go to GeorgiaFort.com/Ralph Bell, you can actually sign up to get notified once it's released. And absolutely, when we get to the point of releasing it next month, we are going to exclusively have some snippets played here first, just to give people an inside look on what this audio series looks like. This is actually the first audio series that I've ever done. But I was really inspired when I heard about Ralph Bell's case to do something different. People, they know me most for the visual stories that I do. I kind of have a format, 3 to 5 minute short stories that I do in video format online. But the amount of overwhelming evidence in this case that really needed to be considered just can't fit into a 3-minute video. And so I decided to do something a little bit different. An audio series is something I've been working on for a really, 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 really long time. And I'm just grateful that the family and the other people who I've interviewed have been patient in the process, because it really takes a long time to sit down with everyone who's been involved, hear their stories, edit them down in a way that's concise and accurate, and then go through all of the evidence. There's so much evidence in this case, so many videos where police were interviewing people. We've worked hard to really get our hands on everything, and people close to the case have been really generous in sharing the evidence that they've gotten. So it took a while, and still we're not done. We're still working on it, but just hoping to really present a series that makes people know, builds awareness about who Ralph is, and ask that tough question: what happened to Ralph Bell?
I wanted to shift the conversation to something that's happening in Mason, Tennessee. We're going to be joined, and I want to welcome to the conversation Anita Wadwani. She's a reporter for the Tennessee Lookout. And I came across their article discussing the incoming comptroller, Jason Mumpower, announcing that the state would take control over the town's finances. And this is just before Ford Motor Company is getting ready to make a significant investment into this city, Georgia. And before we go into this conversation, I have to add this one last piece of information. The city is predominantly Black. Anita, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Could you tell us a little bit more about your reporting?
Well, good morning. And first of all, this is early for me. I'm not a morning person, so forgive any frogs in my throat.
Oh, no, thank you.
So Mason is a pretty small town in rural West Tennessee. It's been around for more than 150 years. And the week before last, the Tennessee comptroller gave town officials an ultimatum, and that was that they should either cede their charter, which would essentially not erase Mason from the map necessarily, but end their representative government, end their existence as a municipality. The other side of that ultimatum is if town leaders chose not to do that, that he would take financial control of the town. And the comptroller has said that, this town for 20 years has struggled with its finances. It has a long history of, not submitting their budgets or audits or doing all the kinds of things that municipalities are required to do under state law. There have also been a couple of pretty egregious instances of fraud in the town's history. One town official paid himself an extra $600,000 and was later indicted. Another one took off with $100,000. And that, those things are largely responsible for putting Mason in a big financial hole. And so where we are now is the town Board of Aldermen voted not to cede their charter. They passed a resolution saying, no, we're not going to do that. And the comptroller has said publicly that he is now currently taking steps to take financial control. And he and Mason officials are meeting for the first time about that step today.
Anita, I want to first of all thank you for your reporting on this, and I'm going back to another article that you wrote on this. Help us to understand the nature of those financial troubles that happened in the city, and I'm trying to find which article, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I read that there was a shift of power in the city, that at one time the city was predominantly managed by predominantly white leadership. Did I read that correctly? What was that transition like? And did that have any overlap with the fraud?
So up until 2015, Mason was led, and for about a century, maybe with some exceptions I'm not aware of, it was led entirely by white elected officials, almost entirely by white elected officials. This is a town that is majority Black, and that's been true for a very long time. In 2015, and this was after and I'm sorry, I'm trying to recall the name of the position of the person who committed the fraud, and it's escaping me, but this individual had his fraud emerged in 2015. The state comptroller was investigating. There was a criminal investigation. Almost the entire leadership of the town resigned, and it left a junior alderman who was recently elected, a Black woman, who is essentially next in line to become mayor. So she was the first mayor she was the first Black and woman mayor in Mason. And since then, there have been a couple of elections since then. The leadership has been Black. The mayors and the vice mayors have been Black. Currently, Mason has a Black mayor, Mr. Emmett Gooden. It has a Black vice mayor, Miss Virginia Rivers, and 5 of its aldermen, and I believe it has 6 aldermen, are Black. And when you talk with the leadership in Mason, this is a point that they kind of lead with first, is the fraud that really resulted in them having such a deep financial hole.
Difficulties.
Resulted during prior administrations, and those were white administrations.
Yeah. Sister Ford.
So, what impact would it have on the city if this individual takes control over the finances of the town?
So the comptroller has said that he is taking control. I'm not sure what options Mason have to challenge that right now, but what it would mean is a very tight rein on the workings of town government. Any expense of $100 or more would have to be approved by the comptroller's office.
Wow.
They would have to submit weekly financials. And he's already indicated that, they've got a plan for Mason that is going to require the town to essentially pay more than $25,000 a month to pay off some of the debt that they've accrued.
Okay.
Which, I actually don't know how much their monthly budget is, but I think that for a town that size, that's going to mean layoffs. It's going to mean benefit cuts. It may mean things that that have not emerged yet. And I think in terms of elected officials who are making decisions about, for example, should we put a sidewalk outside City Hall? Or should we plant trees in the park? I mean, any one of those decisions is going to be subject to this financial oversight. Most of the decisions they make have to do with money.
What is the feeling of the people in Mason in regards to the Ford plant coming in?
So I can't pretend to be an expert on the culture of this little town. I visited it for the first time week before last. I spent a day there. I tried to talk to as many people as possible. But honestly, people were really guarded with me. And I would have some off the record conversations that were more revealing, but on the record, and at the time that I was there was just ahead of a town meeting where city officials were going to explain to the community what was happening. And so I got a lot of like, well, I just want to hear what they have to say tonight. And I mean, honestly, I think that both the African-American and the white residents that I spoke to may have had different reasons for being guarded with talking to me, a reporter from out of town who they didn't know.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. The absurdity is screaming in my face, Anita. The fact that the debt that these Black people, I mean, it's one thing for them not to give us reparations. It's another thing to stick us with a whole brand new debt and then say, now we have to pay you back, and from the small town to the tune of $25,000 a month for damages that were created by non-Black people in a predominantly Black town. Reminds me of Ferguson, Missouri, and all the investigations that happened there. I wonder, the comptroller, what made him so, I don't know, so eager to address this issue now when the offenses happened before 2015?
I mean, I think that's a question a lot of people are asking, and kind of emphasizing that question, or the reason behind that question is what the comptroller is doing with Mason is really unusual. The comptroller has taken over finances of since the late 80s or early 90s. This has only happened 3 times that the comptroller has taken over the finances of a city or a county. So it's not unprecedented, but it's really rare. But the other unprecedented thing that he has done is he's never asked a town to revoke its charter. That's just never happened before. He's never written a letter directly to every property owner in a town that said, essentially, we want you to urge your local officials to cede your charter. And I think that those things kind of raise that question about why now, why Mason, why these unusual steps. And if you talk with the comptroller's people, they will tell you that the comptroller feels like what's happening with Mason's finances is so egregious that it warrants this very kind of unprecedented way of going about this. And then, of course, if you talk with the elected leaders in Mason, they strongly dispute that. And they say that they have been working really hard to get the town's finances under control.
Anita Wani from the Tennessee Reporter, I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. We're going to keep our eye on it as well.
Stop that. Dad joke time. What happens when you put your hand in a blender? You get a handshake. I'm here all morning, people. Good morning again. Y'all stay tuned. Stop that. Raina, good morning to you. Brittany Woods, good morning. Booker, good morning. Isma Onassis, good morning to you. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got more coming up next. Like it or not, it's going down.
What you gonna do when the rain is coming down? Nothing more to do when there's no one else around. Bring it back to the middle, push, take it back to the rhythm. Keep it up for good when the sky's falling down.
Truth the Dragon, good morning to you. On it goes, good morning. The Big Piece, E. Smith, what's going on? Good morning to y'all.
Nobody can get what you've done. Nobody can get what you're going through.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do it. Get it out the way. Got you. Lunch break hot take. Good morning.
Matter everything I never found out. Shovel up the dirt, I'm taking shit from them. Bring it back to the middle, push, take it back to the rhythm. Ringing up the bell for the falling of the sun. Shifting, get in front of the beating of the drum. Set it up to the inner more. Stop, start, down. Nobody can get what you're going through. Nobody can get what you've done. Nobody can get what you're going through. Nobody can get what you've done. What you gonna do with it? What you gonna do with it? What you gonna do with it? What you gonna do with it?
9 a.m. to 10:30, yeah. Like it or not is on your channel, yeah. Politics and culture is we change skin like we supposed to, yeah. Interviews.
Pablo, good morning.
We get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azor, it's starting now, so stick around.
Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. Oh, Rebecca Azor is coming through.
Like it or not, album coming soon.
You she got a good
we can put that thing on Apple Music. Shout out to Ben who said he was working on the song. I still haven't heard a piece of clip or nothing of it yet. But that's my dog.
This is his show. He's a politics bro. I am your DJ exclusive. Y'all know who I am.
The filibuster remix coming soon.
Like it or not.
Shout out Shoot the Dragon who was on this morning at the bus stop.
Like it or not, y'all stick around. Oh, like it or not.
Ooh, Dwayne, I can't hear you. Stop this.
Now, like it or not.
Okay, that's cool. Don't worry, what we can do is just let this ride out for a minute. You get the smooth vocals of DJ Exclusive. You think gas prices are expensive? Have you seen chimneys? They're through the roof. Did you hear that FedEx and UPS are merging? They're going to be called FedUps. In a safety meeting at work, they asked me what steps I had taken to fire. Apparently, really big and fast ones was the wrong answer. What has 5 toes and isn't your foot? My foot. I like that one. That was good. 5 toes, that's your foot, my foot. Let's see, we're going to the bank today. 97% of people are stupid. Thank God I'm in the other 5%. Okay. Hey, Dwayne, don't be worried about your smartphone and TV spying on you. Your vacuum cleaner has been gathering dirt on you for years. Here's the intro. Good morning, everybody.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning. Okay, Hat. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth.
And not care who doesn't like it.
I wish I had the Indiana Jones theme song. Dun, 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 dun,
oh, Lord.
Or Carmen Sandiego.
Or Carmen Sandiego. Yes, Rebecca.
Wow. Wow. Rebecca, hey, sis,
Y'all
it is so
not
good to see
tired
you.
of the same old tired jokes when I wear this hat? Y'all not tired? Y'all not tired?
We ain't saying that one in a minute. No, girl. It be like months and months and months in between time when you wear it, so we got to get it in.
She got a good rotation. You got a good space in between your rotation. We don't really
That
see
means
that
that's when I'm close to going to get my hair done, and I don't want to lay down my real hair on the weave because it's too much. You know, you can't put heat on it like that all the time. So I have a appointment to get braids, so I don't have to call into work and be like, I don't have to be like. I'm sick. You know, I don't have to call in to work and do that. I'll tell you why. Because you know how when you call into work and you say you're sick and then you show up with braids, black girls across the world know what I'm talking about. You know when you call into work and you sick and then you show up the next day with braids, all the white people shock. They're like, oh my God.
Don't you can't tell all. Don't tell all the secrets, Rebecca. Don't
listen. We out here. We out here. What they gonna do? Tell me that's what I did. I wasn't sick. I could have been sick and my braid girl came over. You don't know. But anyway,
that's right.
I got a braid appointment, so I'm gonna tell you, I don't have to call off to work later because I got a message said that the system is down. The system.
Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Oh my goodness! I don't know how we're supposed to be serious after this, but we have to shift gears and go to it regular. Actually, no, friend of the show. We could laugh with our brother Chuck Modiano. It has been a while since we had him on the show. Brother Chuck from DC, live and direct. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, and I want to go on record saying I like the hat, and I don't think Rebecca's got to explain anything to anybody. I'm just putting that out there.
Thank you, Chuck. You see, that's why I love you. I haven't seen you in a minute, my brother. How have you been?
I've been great. I've been great. As always, I've always appreciated this show for uplifting D.C. locally, whether it has been the post-George Floyd uprising, the boycott Nelly's protests, the Get U.S. Out of Haiti protests that barely anyone covered, or what's been going on with Howard. So I always have to say that because D.C.'s not just a national place. Some stuff here happens locally. So I know you're from Atlanta, but, D.C. has something to say.
But
I love that.
Damn right. Damn right. Well, y'all got the mamba sauce, and I gotta, we gotta hold it down for the mamba sauce if we don't do nothing else, man. But shout out to everybody who watches us and supports us from DC. Chuck, I love that you said that there are local things happening there. Tell us about the protest and the strike that's happening at Howard University. What's going on there?
Right. So last week, the Howard faculty, adjunct faculty, and non-tenured faculty announced that they would go on strike yesterday, that they plan to go on strike because they're so severely underpaid, like a lot of adjunct faculty, but seriously at Howard. And as everyone knows, this comes off the Blackburn takeover protests back in November and December, where young people camped out for over a month in tents to protest the housing. And what happened is, at the 11th hour, at 3:30 a.m. yesterday, they reached a resolution before the strike was to happen at 9 a.m. So there was a significant victory as far as raising salaries for over 300 non-tenured and adjunct staff. Don't tell me protests don't work. Don't tell me threats to strike don't work. It doesn't mean that they've reached the promised land. There's still issues to work out, and it still has to be ratified, but it's a rare linear win.
That's what's up. That is
what do you think them being underpaid? I mean, I think that's something that's been probably an issue, especially at these universities. But do you think it has also to do with what's been happening in the recent events, like the pandemic and things like that? Are those things that you think have been a factor in them continuously being underpaid, especially in that particular time, those major times?
Yeah, well, there's the COVID pandemic. And then there's the DC gentrification pandemic, which also brings up cost of living pandemic. All of these things conspired. So to put a fine point on it, one of the metrics that Howard was using to gauge salaries was to have like 250 schools, whether they were in North Carolina or far away. Well, we all know the DC cost of living is way higher than a lot of these schools. So when they compared the DC salaries for adjunct professors at Howard, they weren't using the 9 DC universities, which they should have. So what happened is they were getting the lowest pay of all those 9 universities. Not only that, but getting the lowest pay of all the HBCUs, no matter where they were. Most of them that had a much lower cost of living. So you had professors who had PhDs making like $40,000 and driving an Uber and having a third job, and that was not uncommon. So, I mean, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. And we saw some of those professors show solidarity back in November for the students, and that there was incredible student and non-tenured faculty solidarity. And we have to make sure we understand the difference between a tenured professor and a non-tenured professor that usually, make peanuts.
No, that's peanuts for sure. I would hate to say that I work for the most prestigious university. Well, one of them, because FAMU is the prestigious. But I work from one of the most prestigious universities. This is a historical university, and I have a PhD, and I'm getting paid $40,000 a year. And I got to add on to that to do Uber on the side on the weekends to take these little kids that I be teaching, right?
Oh my God.
Well,
I didn't even think about that, Rebecca.
And they're like, is that Mr. Phillips? And it's just like,
that's horrible.
It's a shame. It's horrible.
Is that Dr. Phillips?
You had 7 years to get your PhD. So some students told me they made more in their full-time job than their professor. I mean, what is that?
Wow.
It's an embarrassment. It's really sad. It's really, really sad. And I'm glad that there is a strike going on. I'm glad that they're making movement towards this. I remember when people were afraid to do things like this because they were afraid of losing their job or things like that happen. But no, I love that they're doing this because there has to be a stop to this. I don't want anybody to ever go through the whole phase of being like a teacher or an educator and not being able. They're educating me to go on and be better and not being able to pay for their housing, their food. We already have to do that every day. We're here being taught by you so that we don't have to go through the same thing. You should not have to. And I don't think any professor or any educator should be going through this at all. So, yeah.
No,
that's right.
I feel that. Chuck, go ahead, Chuck.
Well, I just wanted to add, there are layers to this. Some of it is unique to Howard's leadership that showed up back in November, but some of it is really systemic. So yesterday, American University had their own protest for their adjunct professors who are making less than $4,000 per course. So you're seeing solidarity, and I think you're going to see more of this because as universities become more corporatized, adjunct professors, more of them are being hired because you could pay them less, you could not give them benefits, and they end up working at 2-3 universities in DC. So I think we have a larger systemic problem in addition to what was going on at Howard.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I hope that something really comes of it instead of just a conversation. Because, I know they put out a that the letter and, they're going to talk and the strikes are off. I don't want them to try to think that this is going to hold off time to make them give them time to look better in the media, for them to talk to their PR people, for them to just kind of get them out of the streets really quick while they figure something out. No, people are different now. I think people are privy to a lot of that stuff. So they'll be back in the streets if the conversation ain't worth nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Howard, if it doesn't go the right way, I promise you the Howard faculty and the students will be back protesting. I can make that a guarantee.
Right.
Okay. Matter of fact, let's look at this clip. Let's look at B1. It's an alumni member, a Howard alumni member that led the Howard strike, and a student who supported the strike. Let's see this energy.
It's been a long time coming. It's taken a lot of work from a lot of different people to get here. My colleagues, my fellow non-tenure track folks, but also tenure track colleagues, students have been key to this. The alums have been key to this. The broader community has been really important. We are still waiting to make sure everything goes through. It definitely involves a significant wage increase that I think when we release it to our bargaining unit members, I think people will be very pleased with. I was very pleased to see it. Core of things is us holding on to people who care about this university, who care about these students, and to know that we've lost so many over the last 4 years, and that we may continue to lose some. That hurts. That hurts a lot. And so there's some bittersweetness to it. For the university, I think this is a big victory. This is really important to say, is that there are some issues going on with how students are being treated right now. I know that some of our students are being hit with handbook violations. It's really disappointing seeing our students being hit with these attacks just for speaking out, for doing exactly what we're here to teach them to do.
It was so disheartening to me. I'm a full-time student, but I also have 2 jobs. I work a full-time job and I have a part-time job. And to hear some faculty telling me how low their salary was, it was insane to me. Not that I'm not deserving of, my salary, but there were moments where I'm sitting in a classroom and I'm being taught by an instructor, and I know that my salary is more than theirs. That's really hard to wrap my head around.
And they have a PhD.
And they have a PhD. I have all these factions of Howard that are dealing with all of these issues, and we all keep feeling like we're not being heard. And it was good to see that they got a win. I believe that there is strength in numbers and there's shared struggle. These are the people that pour into us. These are the people that teach us. These are the people that help find us housing, help the things that you don't think that professors are doing, they're doing behind the scenes. So of course we're going to stand in solidarity with them. We're going to collect their struggle. We're going to keep supporting each other, because the alumni, the faculty, the students, if you don't have those factions together, you don't have Howard University.
Chuck Modiano on Twitter at Chuck Modi1. I want to say thank you for the coverage, brother. It's easy for us to cover it because you're there getting it. So thanks so much for what you're doing, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, as always.
It's always a pleasure. Rebecca, James, we are joined now by I want to say friend of the show, representative, state
she is
representative.
A friend of the show. What you talking about? She friend of the show.
Can we claim people, or people have to? Or is that something we can say, or they say it themselves?
If you've been on this show one time, that's enough for us to be like, "That's our cousin." What you talking about? That's our cousin.
Cousin is on the screen. State Representative Renita Shannon. She is from Georgia's 84th Congressional District. And she is also, I'm just finding out, a candidate for lieutenant governor in the state of Georgia. First and foremost, welcome back to the show. Good morning. How are you?
Let's go.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, you can claim me as your cousin. That is
cuz. So now that we're all family, I want to just start, before we talk about all the crazy things that's happening, I do want to talk about how excited I am to hear that you're running for lieutenant governor. Tell us what made you decide to jump out there and how it's going.
Thank you. So yes, I'm running for lieutenant governor. Things are going great with the campaign. I'm running because the regressive policies in Georgia have just created such a harsh reality for so many folks in Georgia, particularly working Georgians. And we really need a sea change in policy. I've spent my legislative career finding harm in legislation and knowing policy well enough to be able to find the harm, particularly for Black and brown folks, and then fighting against it. So this is really me taking it to the next level to make sure that we can have government that is truly representative and not just passing policies that benefit the folks who've been able to vote for the longest in this country, white men, because that's really what most of our policy looks like in the state of Georgia and across the country.
Wow. Yeah, now the reason we brought you on, I mean, you could come on anytime you want to, because Georgia Republicans have passed a bill that would transfer power from the State Board of Election to the Georgia Board of Investigation, law enforcement agency, to investigate elections. Now, I had a chance to talk with you about this yesterday. Could you just, before we jump into it, help us to understand what Republicans are doing on the state level and why it is detrimental?
Sure. So this is a prime example of what I was talking about. People not understanding the harm that's being created in policy, particularly for Black and brown communities when they advance these policies. HB 1464 is a bill that basically would allow the GBI to have first line jurisdiction to be able to investigate elections. So when you think about this, it's similar to what Florida's trying to do with the election police. And so one of the things that I did when I spoke against this bill was remind folks of what happened in Quitman, Georgia, when a handful of Black folks, predominantly Black women, decided to try to have some Black representation in a county that was majority Black but had all white representation. This was in 2010. Brian Kemp was still the Secretary of State. And let me tell you, he had these Black seniors arrested 4 days before Christmas for having the audacity to flip a seat and gain representation in Georgia. Wow. And as a part of that process, he involved the GBI to investigate the elections. The entire event was so stressful that one of the folks who was being investigated actually died awaiting trial. And so yes, it's shocking because that sounds like something out of the 1960s, but it's not. This happened in 2010. And these are the things that folks need to, at a time where Republicans across the country are trying to make sure that we don't have an accurate teaching of history or that history is not taught at all. We need to understand history because these policies are good for everyone.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, I think this ties right into the representation of, like you said, all of these leaderships, these white men and their fear of us teaching this. Like this was in 2010, you said. This sounds like it was something out of the 1960s or before. I mean, but this happened in 2010 right here in Georgia. And these white men, these white leaders walk around here abusing, Black people, Black constituents, Black people flipping seats, Black people coming in. They don't look at them as if they should be deserving of these spaces, right? Because they know how powerful Black people in these spaces will be, just like you, Renita, just like you, as you are taking on this role to become Lieutenant Governor. I mean, how has that been for you, even knowing what our representation already looks like and what he has done and what he may be able to do? How does that look like for you?
Well, so people know my legislative track record. They know that I'm a person who's unafraid to speak truth to power and that I know policy. I make it my business to read every single bill. My colleagues know me as the bill reader. And that's important because when you are trying to create legislation that will protect everybody and make sure that no community falls through the cracks, the folks who are the best to do that are Black queer women like myself who are at the intersection of so many different identities. They understand where the harm is going to be created. So the campaign is going well. People, I always say I always run because of the issues. And so that is what has led me to run for Lieutenant Governor.
I love that. That's fearless. That's unapologetic. And I also saw that. I mean, you say you read, right? I saw that you there was a video of you, and you were saying when everybody else is gone, I'm there reading. I'm over here going over and combing through. And how does that make a difference for you? Does that make you more knowledgeable against the rest? How does that make a difference for you?
It does, because I have to say that's one of the things that was very shocking to me entering the legislature in 2017 was that most of the folks who are in office are just listening to their political parties about how to vote on bills. But when you come from a background of community organizing like myself, you understand that both parties have a tendency to create harm, especially for Black and brown communities. And so it's important ensuring that we are understanding that policy is more than just words on a paper. It actually has impact on communities. And so for me, that has been reading every single piece of legislation and understanding where folks can fall through the cracks and what will not be good for us. And so HB 1464 is a prime example. If you look at my speech on the floor, before I talked about how Black seniors have literally been prosecuted by the GBI for just having the audacity to run for election and win, I also talked about some of the poor language in the bill, using the word handling of ballots and making it a crime if you don't have a poll official present. And so one of the things I brought up was the language is so loose and so poor in this bill. What does the word handle? And so when you have language that's so poor and so loose in these bills, what happens is prosecution becomes subjective. And we know that means that Black and brown folks are going to feel the brunt of loose language.
That's right. That's right. That's my concern. We have a clip of you speaking to that exact point. I want us to play a portion of that, because my concern is this: with this legislation, they're rewriting what's legal. I mean, I know that's obvious, right? But they're making it very, very possible for Republicans to get away with voter suppression, to get away with these different tactics that are going to make it almost impossible for Black people to maintain power. You spoke so eloquently about it. Let's play a couple of minutes of that clip, Dwayne.
I rise to speak in opposition to House Bill 1464. Several provisions in this bill really are written so loosely, and the language is so poor that there's really not a way to comply with this bill. There's really not a way to know if you are complying with the bill. I want to first draw your attention to Section 12, line 745 through line 751, and I'll read the section. No ballots shall be handled without a poll official being present and without documentation on the chain of custody documentation forms of who is handling such ballots and when and why such ballots are being handled. After the activity requiring the handling of ballots is completed, such ballots shall be resealed in ballot boxes or other secure containers, which shall be recorded and witnessed on chain of custody documentation forms as specified by the Secretary of State and shall be signed by the persons having custody of such ballots. This section is something that I brought up in committee when we saw this provision in a separate bill that came through Governmental Affairs. The language is written so loosely, and it's requiring you to have a poll official present when ballots are being handled. What does the word handled mean? When you look up the word handled in the dictionary, it says to feel or manipulate with hands. Or a second definition is to manage a situation or a problem. So what are we talking about here? Are we saying that you've got to have a poll official available if you touch a ballot, if you move a ballot? I mean, literally, if you pick up a ballot that falls on the floor, do you have to call a poll official to supervise that?
Representative Shannon, that is, I hear you keep speaking about the unclearness of the language. This sounds like a catch-all trap. What do we do about this?
Yeah. Well, Ben, it is like you have been in the legislature with me. You're right. The language is so loose because it is a catch-all trap. So that at the end of the day, when Black and brown voters show up to exercise their power, the Republicans will have a way to basically yank that power back and say, okay, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. So what we really need to have folks do is, number one, elect leaders who are committed to creating policy that works for all of us, not just the folks who've been able to vote the longest in this country, which are white men. The second thing we need to do is be reaching out to these elected officials to tell them that we understand what you're doing and we don't like it. This bill has already passed the House. It has not passed the Senate yet. We have time. We need folks who live in Georgia to call the governor and say, we see what you're doing and we don't want you to continue destroying our elections. Veto this bill.
Absolutely. State Representative Renita Shannon, also candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you for bringing attention to this legislation. And I want to encourage everyone in our audience to do exactly that, to reach out and let them know we have our eye on you. We're not just going to sit by. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
And before you get out of here, let people know how they can support your campaign, how they can follow you, because I think that's really important. Because right here, we're going to stand for Renita Shannon. So tell people how they can find you.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is very important. Being that I'm a legislator, when we're in active legislation, we cannot accept fundraising. we cannot accept campaign dollars. So beginning April 5th, you will be able to donate to my campaign. We have been in session for 3 months, which means I could not take any contributions for 3 months. I need a lot of help. I need your money. I need your time to volunteer. I need you to share the campaign. So please go to RenitaShannon.com, sign up to be a volunteer, share this interview, share information about the campaign. Again, that's RenitaShannon.com.
That's what I'm talking about.
you so
I'm
much,
going to
sis.
that website. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sister.
Thank you for having me. Bye, cousins.
Hey, cuz. Hey.
Bye, cuz.
Yeah.
Bye, cuz.
You think this is family. And I'm gonna tell you why she's family, because she came on the show. I remember she wanted to come on the show, and I was like, yes, come on. She got a story to tell. And then she brought her sister on. She was like, no, you need to get Park Cannon on here.
That's right.
And then we was like, yes, we do. And
Yes,
and
we
I
do.
think that's family. They're gonna be like, y'all know, you don't know Ben and them. You gotta get on that show. And she's telling us, you don't know Representative Park Cannon. She gotta be on the show. She got a story to tell. So I love it. That's family right
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely love it. This is family too. We have a whole lot more show to go. We're gonna be joined by
Olayami, right? That's
No, Olaimi.
See, dang.
There's a certain part of the show where my mouth just says, hell no, it's time to go. But Ole Olurin is going to join us in a few minutes. And we're also going to be joined by Pascal Babo of the Pascal Show. So we got a lot more show to go.
Pascal.
We got the islands in the building today, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
We
didn't
got
think
the
about that.
island boy.
Island boy.
The island boy.
Hey, fooling with y'all today.
What would you do if you ran into those dudes in the forest late at night? Like, them boys,
Scared.
island
I wouldn't be
boy.
scared of Kodak. That's crazy. I wouldn't be scared of Kodak. But if I saw them boys,
I would be scared.
If I saw them white Cuban boys, I'd be scared as hell.
Man, come around the corner talking about island boy.
Island boy. I'm like, how you get your hair to do that? What? This is not right. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. I can't see no white boy in bolos. It's just all wrong.
What David said he think they were drug addicts. Yes, I think that'd be straight up meth heads.
I don't know if they are. And when I say drug, yeah.
Rebecca has a big heart, y'all. Rebecca has a big heart. She I know my sister.
Where my friends at? Where are other cousins at? Where we going?
Well, no, I think what we I think what we
want to take a
we
break.
actually have some free time.
We're gonna take a breather.
We have some free time. I don't know what to do with it.
We're gonna have Bubba let us know what to do with it. He's about to transition us properly into
Dwayne.
Okay. Oh, okay, so we're not going to take a break. Okay, so we're not going to
play
break.
some
Okay.
background music, Bubba, and tell us a joke or something?
So Rebecca called for a joke. She don't normally call for jokes, so when Rebecca called for a joke, I gotta do it. What's the difference between a vegan and a computer programmer?
Wait, the difference between a vegan and a computer programmer?
Yes. One is disgusted by a rack of lamb, and the other is disgusted by a lack of RAM.
Oh my god!
Okay, RAM.
That was a bad joke, man.
How does a hamburger introduce his
if Ben
girlfriend?
didn't laugh at that one, it ain't funny.
Right.
I don't know. How does he introduce his friend?
Yeah. How does a hamburger introduce his girlfriend?
I don't know.
Patty.
Oh my god. Okay, that's a good one. That's my
Do y'all
kids
think
would like
Patty
that.
from Doug is black. Patty mayonnaise.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait. But she was white, wasn't she?
No, I don't think she was. I think she was black, and she had a fro, but they just made it blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I love? I love that our show just went from like covering the serious news that's happening on Capitol Hill to now we just in the trap house. Turn it up a little bit.
I hate y'all.
We just a chill, man.
It's Friday Junior. I'm off of my
Friday
other job,
Junior,
but
okay.
The system is down. About to get brave.
Won't he do it?
Rebecca but that's all right. I'm about to go to the doctor and probably get my arm put in the sling, but it's okay. I'm still gonna be here. I'll be off work for a couple of days, so that's cool.
That's good. Is it paid time off, or are they using your time?
Time, more than likely my time. Be calling off work. I mean, it just depends on if I, you know what, never mind. I can't say those things on this Beyonce's internet.
Yes. We have learned not to say everything that comes to our mind on this internet. So
okay.
We've grown.
Right.
Oh,
we've
man.
grown levels, so many levels.
and we've grown comfortable enough to just be here vibing live on the air with you and not really care. Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to catch a vibe and not care who doesn't like it.
No, Ben, you had to let me finish that because that's my part. You can't just come in and try to remix it and then just.
Oh, my bad, Shaw.
And then just go all over the place with it.
I'm bopping now. I'm sorry. I'm following the music. All right. Who wants to do the grand introduction of our... Go ahead, James.
Bubba.
Oh, someone asked me to name 2 structures that hold water. I was like, well, damn. Y'all welcome to the screen. Our brother from another mother and our sister from another mister. Ole and brother Pascal. Y'all welcome.
We 5 deep. We 5 deep. We
you
on
wasn't
Voltron.
Ole, you weren't ready? That be me too. Look, we got our cousins, you know what I'm saying? Our cousins on the show, you know what I'm saying? You know, we got Miss Olerin. You know, she's a celebrity on Twitter or whatever. I saw her last night on BNC. I said, girl, give us skin and give the people the red brows, okay? Give us the nice, beautiful touch with the brows. And then I said Pascal, because I've been watching Pascal. He been covering all these missing folks. When we not looking, he literally is like, y'all not talking about this missing person. Let's go ahead and let's discuss this story. And I like that. I like his takes on stuff too, because, you know, the way that he gives his news, it's always digestible. So I love that about you for, you know, doing your thing. I just wanted to give y'all love before we started the show.
She's saying I'm unintelligible. Okay, I appreciate it.
That's exactly what I said. That's it. That's the one.
I appreciate it. No, seriously.
Okay,
and then Olay had in the background on BNC what she got right now. So I know the people were real twisted. They was real twisted. It. Yeah, it looks good. How are you guys today though? How you guys doing?
Chilling. How are you?
I woke up
Chilling
for
like
you.
a villain.
I woke up for you, Rebecca, deep in a dream. I went to the deep in a dream, Rebecca.
Really?
Rebecca, I ignored 2 alarms. And on that 3rd one, I was like, I don't want to have to make excuses. Let me get up.
So you was dancing to your alarm in your dream, and then you was like,
in a dream?
I gotta get up.
Knocked out. KO. I swear I felt like I just went to bed.
What was funny is yesterday my alarm went off so many times that it killed my phone. So here it is. I'm thinking I'm about to get up, and I'm like, man, my alarm not turning on. I'm hitting the phone. I'm like, this damn phone and died. I'm about to miss the show.
About to miss the whole show.
I'm glad that you woke up for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that you did, because I feel like who other than to have this conversation with for real when it comes to these last 3 days that this woman was put on the cross. Amen. You know, Judge Ketanji Brown, like I hated to see it, but I understood. When I did see her and I watched her, I thought of, you know, you and, you know, one of your recent events and being in the courtroom and being talked to crazy. Nobody has respect for people, you know, in their positions and who they are. If you black, you just get disrespected. It doesn't even matter. Right. But anywho, as we all have watched, the last 3 days have been hard to watch with, you know, Judge Brown being put on the cross in the spectacle, being made a spectacle in her confirmation hearing. So I know that you've talked a lot about that online, Ole. So, you know, what's your take on it?
You know, listen, I'm not surprised. I want to say that. I expect nothing more but disrespect. Not just that she's a Supreme Court Justice nominee. She's a black woman in the legal profession. That is what I anticipate if she is surrounded by a sea of white people. So I'm not surprised. And I almost wouldn't engage it if I didn't have to know what's going on and comment on it, because I hate to let these people ruin things for us, right? Because we know what it is. It sucks to have to be confronted with the way they will delegitimize you, and to see somebody so highly qualified be talked to by mediocre fools and disrespected all day. It's something, because it shows you that even as a black woman, even when you ascend to what is the highest point in the line, you've accomplished all that you can accomplish in a country where they claim they want it to be a meritocracy. And here you are with all the merit, and they want to dismiss you and disregard you and disrespect you. So I'm not shocked. I'm just waiting for it to be done so she don't have to sit here and deal with these people anymore, because it's just crazy the way mediocre, unintelligent, very obviously racist white men can sit there and dog whistle all day and listen to themselves speak and have a soapbox just so they could have the clips, replay on Fox News at night, because that's who it's for. It's for their base. Right. They're disrespecting this black woman as performance theater for their boys. So I'm not shocked. I'm shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm barely offended by it. I just want my girl to get what she needs and have to come out these people's face.
Okay. Before we get to you, Pascal, look, Pascal, you ready? Look.
You don't need
it's
to.
the face. Pascal was
said
like,
everything.
Before we
drop the mic and walk off the stage, she said everything.
And we're not even done with it. And I'm surprised she's a little too calm right now. But before we get to you, Pascal, I wanted to play a clip so that you guys can visualize and see exactly what all of us were feeling, especially us black women who know what it's like to be spoken to like this. Let's take a look.
Case, you and I talked about this yesterday. You've been able to think about it overnight. This is a case where you had an 18-year-old who possessed and distributed hundreds of images of 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and you gave him, frankly, a slap on the wrist sentence of 3 months.
Senator,
do you regret it?
I don't remember whether it was distribution or possession in
it was
the law.
Both. Do you regret it?
In the law, there are different crimes that people commit.
Judge, you gave him 3 months. My question is, do you regret it or not?
Senator, what I regret is that in a hearing about my qualifications to be a justice on the Supreme Court, we've spent a lot of time focusing on this small subset of my sentences, and I've tried to explain.
You regret that
many
we're focusing on
times-
your cases? I don't understand.
No. I'm talking about the fact that you're talking about
Child pornography
7
cases?
very serious cases.
I'm glad we agree on that. Don't you think we should be focusing on that?
Some of which involve conduct that I sentence people to 25, 30 years.
3 months in this case, Judge. Do you regret it? You haven't answered my question yet. Do you
Senator,
regret this sentence?
Senator, I would have to look at the circumstances. What I'm telling you.
You know the circumstances. We discussed it for half an hour yesterday. There's a 55-page transcript, which I'm sure you've read. You lived it. As you've emphasized to this committee over and over, you've lived it, right? You said that you've been through all of this. You've looked at all of the images. You're the one who's had to endure all of it. You gave him a 3-month sentence. I just wonder if you regret it or if you stand by it. I mean, do you stand by that sentence?
Senator, in every case, I followed what Congress authorized me to do in looking to the best of my ability at all of the various factors that apply, that constrain judges, that give us discretion, but also tell us how to sentence. And I ruled in every case based on all of the relevant factors.
So when white people do this to you like this,
white people don't even get
that's not gonna make that that's not gonna like intimidate me. I said what I said. Like stop putting words in my mouth.
That's right.
But it does intimidate them. I encourage you, Rebecca, get in your bag. I love to sit in with the white people.
Yeah, we talk about that, Ole.
You know that's my bag.
I like to look in the air and be like this. Like, fine, where did they get that from? I like to look over here, and just look crazy. Because that's ridiculous.
If you really want to violate, you do a quick one of these. You put your hand up like, do this like you want to talk, but don't say nothing because the stress, get the anxiety running this fucking fast.
And to be a black woman in this particular space, I'm saying, like, you know what that's like. You're put on the cross in front of everyone, and a white man is talking to you and asking you the smallest thing that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. You clarified yourself, and he just said, I spoke with you for a half an hour on this yesterday, and I'm bringing it back for you to just say, and she's like, well, I already talked about this.
And she better than me because I love for somebody to open the door on foolishness because I got several points to be made here. First of all, how much time has this man spent in jail to call 3 months a slap in the wrist? Like, how much time has he spent in jail? And according to him, 1 day in jail is too many because he and the rest of his boys have been crying and complaining for the last year about any of the insurrectionists doing any time.
That's right.
So according to y'all, any time in jail is inhumane. Y'all been complaining about pretrial conditions for your insurrectionist buddies. So I don't know, 3 months is suddenly a slap on the wrist. Second of all, where in the Constitution, and by where I mean nowhere does it say that anybody is obligated as a Supreme Court justice or any official to be committed to mass incarceration? Where does it say that we need to have Supreme Court justices, legislators, or absolutely anybody is obligated to be supportive of this pro mass incarceration agenda? She's not. Third of all, I love how they don't seem to mention that all of these decisions that they're criticizing from this judge all seem to have been upheld. I don't hear anything about anything being reversed, any illegality, any unconstitutionality. They're not raising any principles or anything that would suggest why it would concern us, this one being the Supreme Court justice. All they're saying is, I am a Republican, and I would prefer you send these people that you typically represent that are poor Black and brown people, because that's what would be in front of you in the criminal system. I would prefer that you send them to jail for as long as you humanly possibly can. But yet, in the same breath, while I continue to go down all the sex crimes you represented and criticize you, not for letting them go or letting them walk. You notice none of these cases they brought up of the people not been convicted or didn't go to jail or something like that. No. You sent all these people to jail. Their argument is, how dare you? It is morally repugnant or morally bankrupt for you to be defending people or even mitigating or giving any kind of leniency or compassion to people who are accused of sex crimes. And in the same breath, they turn around and say, hey, our Supreme Court justice picked, Kavanaugh, the one that was accused of sex crimes. I am still mad to this day that y'all weren't nice enough to him in these confirmation hearings. Because why? He was accused of a little thing like rape.
They mad about Kavanaugh. They want to throw him in there and then be like, you did this to my friend. And then, and then starting the conversation, I seen yesterday that Graham had started the conversation by talking about them having a Black woman as a potential nominee and how she was Black. I just wanted to put it out there. She was Black and nobody, and she was treated kind of the same way as you, but they didn't pick her. But I wanted to know that we too got a Black friend, and she was Republican. It was the worst opening ever. It was trash.
And also, by the way, that don't help. I saw them try to make that argument like, I maybe it was one of the Republicans I was speaking to on something this week, and I don't pay them no mind. Said. I was talking about their Black Republican, and they were like, oh, to show that they were fair, that they didn't treat her nice either. They were like, we were tough on our Black pick too. Oh, y'all were? Does that help? I think y'all are devout racists, and y'all are saying even our own Black pick we had to mistreat. I'm like, yeah, that seems aligned with exactly what I'm saying about you good old white supremacists.
No, seriously. Now, Pascal. Look, Pascal, I see you over there nodding. Listen, yesterday was a lot.
Oh, man.
It was I don't know how I stayed there with Ketanji just watching that whole thing. I don't know how I was up and just trying to it was terrible. And
12 hours. 12 hours, y'all.
We sat there literally watching that. And that's why I'm like, all of us needed that day off, those 3 days off consecutively so that we can be in her corner. But you know who was in her corner? Even though sometimes he's a little corny, he was dusting his shoulders off. Cory Booker. Pascal, what did you think about that moment? And how important was that for Judge Brown?
I think it was an amazing moment because it was a nice breath of fresh air, relieving some of this pressure, some of this tension that was been going on for the past 12 hours, y'all. They went after her for 12 hours. They did not let up. They wanted to break her. They literally wanted to break her. So what I loved about this is that Cory Booker, even though, I agree, he's really corny, but he did date Rosario Dawson, so I give him mad props for that. But still, what I love about this, I'm just saying, she's gorgeous. Moving on, the one thing that
she follows me on Twitter.
Oh, she does? How dare
Rosario Dawson?
I just had to throw that out.
You guys
I just had to throw that out there.
Energy right now. You guys are giving me that energy. I need you guys to settle it down. And
so here's the thing. What I really did appreciate is that he was basically saying, hey, keep pushing. Do not give up. We got your back. These kinds of things happen with people who are trying to get through adversity. That there are people out here cheering for her. She is not alone because 12 hours of them just nitpicking at the littlest things. I mean, it was the most ridiculous conversations and that were questions that were being hurled at her, all because they were just trying to take her down. They wanted to see her snap. They wanted her to show her true self. You know, what she really thinking in her mind, because you saw the looks on her face. You know what I'm saying? Those you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yes. And I know. We know exactly what you're talking about. All of the faces that were being made in that moment, I think Black women all over the world could, like, we just looked at it and we were like, every time, and then they would be like, you know, you need to say something, you need to say something right now, you need to say something right now. And she's like, well, you're not giving me a moment to say anything, but she would do the pregnant pauses, because I would be like, I don't know what I would do in that moment. But those pregnant pauses that we know we have to take, because we're in a position right now that the world is looking at us and all these sea of white people want me to break. I could go here or I can go there, but I'm just going to go ahead and let my ancestors, like I was telling you, LA, speak through my face. But it's a moment that we all know.
That's such a reflection on their own white privilege, because the idea that they even think they could break her. Because I'm like, this, what do you think she's been through to get there? I'm like, did you go to, I'm like, you've never gone to law school as a Black person. You've never been the only Black person sitting in a class filled with the exact same racists that are sitting around her now. This ain't her first dance. I'm like, why do y'all think that? Y'all think us sitting there, and you know what it is too? Because they're always holding you to their silly standards, right? Like, it'd break you, silly boy. Y'all are still upset. Y'all still foaming at the mouth because your boy was foaming at the mouth years ago now. You know what I mean? He couldn't handle it. Y'all can't handle it. You can't get over it because you don't know adversity. In fact, you so aren't accustomed to adversity, plight, or any kind of challenge of any kind that you're looking at this man having to answer questions for his own conduct as some kind of attempt to destroy him. So here you are abusing this Black woman, thinking you could break her spirit, but you never could. You never could, because there's a certain level of weakness that y'all possess that ain't her.
Yeah. And the experience that you speak of, go ahead, Pascal.
No. I was just going to piggyback on that. What I was saying is that she was constantly trying to take the high road. Every single time she had an answer, it was very diplomatic. It was very well thought. I don't know if she had the questions beforehand, which I highly doubt, because they wanted to sweep her from under her feet, right? So just grab the rug right from under her. But how she responded, how she was so far, she has been holding her ground. She has been holding water, and literally the water keeps rising. But one thing that I did appreciate about Cory Booker is that he was basically saying, hey, keep treading water. You're almost there. You're going to be all right. And, and there's no way of growth without going through adversity. And that's the thing that I really respected from Cory Booker's speech.
And so it was a speech, and and the experience that you speak of, Ole, we can see inside of her. Like, it's not that you guys are saying that she's experienced on paper, but she's experienced for this particular moment. They kept reiterating to her, and we'll get to that Cory Booker speech because I want you guys to hear exactly what he said to her. But they kept saying to her that they that you know, aren't you supposed to be experienced? Aren't you supposed, like, where is your experience from? And she's looking like, and they were like, you were experienced because you were, a judge here and there. You don't really have a background. They tried to break her down. But the truth is, and then they said the White House did, get you prepared for this. And I looked at the TV, I said, no, they did not. Because she was already prepared as a Black woman, as a Black girl growing up to become a Black woman, and you don't know what she had to endure in every seat that she sat in, every school that she's gone to, every shop that she shopped at. You don't know her dating, being with that white man, her coming from Miami, Florida to go up to this Harvard Law School. You don't know what she's been through. This is her experience, and that's why she could sit in the middle of this room and look at y'all mother crazy right now and not say what's really on her mind.
You better pull up.
That's what her
Take your time, Rebecca.
And I want you all to hear what Cory Booker told this lady in that moment. Yo, Dwayne, play that.
Damn.
Black in America who's gotten anywhere has done by being like Ginger Rogers said, I did everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards in heels. And so I'm just sitting here saying, nobody's stealing my joy. Nobody's going to make me angry, especially not people that are called in a conservative magazine demagogic for what they're bringing up that just doesn't hold water. I'm not going to let my joy be stolen because I know you and I we appreciate something that we get that a lot of my colleagues don't. I know Tim Scott does. When I first came to this place, I was the 4th black person ever popularly elected to the United States Senate. And I still remember a lot of mixed people, white folks, black folks work here, but at night when people are in line to come in to clean this place, the percentage of minorities shift a lot. And so I'm walking here, first week I'm here, and somebody who's been here for decades doing the urgent work of the Senate, but it's the unglamorous work that goes on no matter who's in offices. The guy comes up to me, and all he wants to say, I can tell, is, I'm so happy you're here. But he comes up and he can't get the words out. And this man, my elder, starts crying. And I just hugged him, and he just kept telling me, it is so good to see you here. It's so good to see you here.
Now, it is more to that clip so that y'all know that it's another part where he says, you know, speaking through the ancestors and everything. And that was like the main part. The other part, you know, he is a little cornball, but, you know, Cory Booker, he stood up and he said what needed to be said. And she needed to hear that.
Yeah, because who else was telling her that in the room? Who else was telling her that in the room? And then to get it from your black colleague, I know he a little light-skinned, I know he a little corny, but in those particular times, and that is the moment that she chose to shed a tear. And I can tell you guys right now that I don't know why. I do know why, because exactly what the reason why, what I was telling you earlier. But I just really did not want her to shed a tear on these people. But then I had to look at myself and say, why do you feel that way, Rebecca? Because I was like, they're gonna try to make her look as weak, but she's been holding all this. But why should we hold ourselves back? We deserve to shed a few tears. We deserve to like celebrate. But they took every emotion. They made me feel like how I always feel. Yeah, like we can't be human. And she chose this particular moment to share with this black man. She chose the moment where she was being spoken to like a person, being seen, being heard, being, you know, praised, because she didn't get deserved. She didn't get to do that at all during this process. But for her, he was praising her and saying that she's come a long way and telling her that she deserves and all of that. The stuff that she needed to hear. That's the moment that touched her the most. And that's the moment that she shed that tear. But we should not be holding back no tears, because when these white women are crying and these white men are literally having a hissy fit on a damn stage, just I mean, all the red is showing. When they're doing that, it doesn't look crazy to us. But as black women, we are built in this idea to just be too strong, to just be the strong person in the room. We can't cry, we can't do any of that, because it's gonna translate to us being broken or the mad black woman. And I hate that for us so much. I really do. I do.
Well, the first thing I want to say is, the beautiful thing about what Cory Booker did is that's a true example of protecting black women in real life, like doing it, not just saying it, but living that, right? Because he took that opportunity. That was done for her. We all know that. Everything Cory Booker said, we know. Black people know. Our community knows. Everybody that's watching it, we know exactly what the truth is. We know it. But he did that for her because she needed that. In a room of being torn down and attacked by a sea of racists. That's right. And not only did she need that, but the rest of us watching that, feeling that pain for her, we needed that too. So that's beautiful, and I want to credit him for that. Second, I'm glad she cried. I'm glad she cried, because she is a human being. Black women are not superhuman. We are not some kind of special anomaly that we don't feel like everybody else. We feel the same way everybody else would have been incensed. They would have been in pain. They would have been in tears by a fraction. If they went to sleep right now and they dreamed about experiencing something like that, they'd wake up talking about they had a bad dream and their day would be rough, let alone you actually go through that. So I'm glad that she cried, because she needs to show that. And my final thing I want to say is this. We can't please racists. Racists will never acknowledge the facts. They will never acknowledge the truth. They will never legitimize what is actually happening. So it does not matter what they think. Yes, all of the racists are going to say, oh, she shouldn't have cried. Oh, she shouldn't have done this. Oh, look, she's weak. Yeah, because that's what they'll say. Look how overly qualified this woman is. And all of their own systems of merit have verified that the things that they put stock into, their Ivy Leagues, their bar association, their courts, their ABA, all of those things, their systems of merit have already said what it is. And yet here they are pretending like they don't know that. So that is just a reflection of the fact that they will never give us the credit and the humanity that we deserve. So forget them. Don't even, who cares what they're talking about? Who cares what they're upset? Who cares about how they're going to receive it? We know that black woman is more than qualified. Let me say this. It is a painful world where you could be sitting in a room where you are most qualified by a landslide. You could run circles around these people, and people in that room who are beneath you intellectually and in terms of qualification feel like they could talk to you in such a way that a black man has to come and affirm you. because that's what you're dealing with. So in that room, where people could already disavow facts and disregard what is reality to disrespect you, cry, girl. If you want to cry, you deserve that. You're the first Black woman to ever be in that position, and that's a big damn deal.
Amen.
Damn right. Damn.
I think it was great that I think it was really great that she didn't break until he started to humanize the situation, until he said, I understand where you are coming from because I was there. I've been there. I'm still there. I'm over here dealing with the same BS, but you're not alone. I think that was great because, I mean, I feel like if she broke down during her being cross-examined by every single Harry, Dick, and Tom, I think that it would have shown a sign of weakness, in my personal opinion. Then they would have taken that and it would have been plastered all over political news. They would have been like, oh, you know, Ketanji Brown Jackson cries during her cross-examination, so on and so forth. They broke her. Then the Republican Party would feel they'd be patting each other on the back saying, yes, we did it. We broke this Black woman. But instead, she did not. She persevered. She pushed through. She was still extremely diplomatic, very well spoken with every single answer that she had. But then when Cory Booker, you know, I know he can be corny, but when he finally spoke up but you can see the excitement that he had for having her come into this position, and then saying, I can relate and I can understand where you're coming from. I think it was I thought it was a beautiful moment. It was a powerful moment because he knows exactly what she's talking about, where she's coming from.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what pains me though? I actually, you know, and this is something I get my own self a lot as a Black woman that, you know, is a lawyer and is a political commentator, and you navigate, you know, these Republicans and these races. And, you know, people give you a lot of credit for like compassion and or grace or being able to, you know, be reserved or not respond to these people. And I actually hate that because that's not a strength special to me. All Black people know what it is to have to bite your tongue and reserve space in certain spaces and navigate that. What I actually respect is Black people that are able to say, you know what? Forget all that. Forget what you would appreciate, you know, forget what y'all approve of. Let me speak up for myself because I actually hate how much Black women are applauded for being strong and for being fierce and for being advocates for everybody but ourselves. The only thing we get credit for doing for ourselves is sitting quietly and navigating people's disrespect, classy. You know what I mean? That's what I hate. It's like this woman has been a fierce advocate throughout her career. She's a judge. She's a strong woman. You know, she has all to say. She has to be powerful. And what all these people, especially all these white people, are like, you know, foaming at the mouth and congratulating her for is being able to sit there and quietly take disrespect while all this room full of white people get to act up and act crazy, and it never reflects on them in the same way. And I want us to start not even caring about talking about factoring in what is their perception, because they will always take it and be negative about it because that's what they're going to do. That's what a racist does, right? Exactly. If she cries, she's weak. If she responds, she's angry because she's a Black woman, and they're always going to try to find a denigrator like
every single time. Every single time. And that's where I think my frustration was at. As a Black woman watching this, I don't know why. Let me get my natural lighting because my light just died. But I don't know why that I felt in that particular moment like, please don't cry. But then I was like, why doesn't she get to cry? Then I was thinking of myself being on these other, you know, these white networks and having to constrain myself and and if you go down the comment section of these huge white networks, they'll say, oh, you know, her nails are distracting. Why did she put that color in her hair? And not listen to what I'm saying. I could be dropping points off in a very calm manner. And they're like, well, she really composed herself. And the moment where I say something that has to do with, hey, this is not an issue, but here's a real issue happening in the Black community. And this is where this is a great juxtaposition to show you what it looks like in this white place and what it looks like in this Black space. And they're saying, oh, here she want to come put race into it. This is why they don't vet who they bring on the show. She's not she's not this and that.
I don't even talk about race and they still come for me. I every single time I go on the Hill, I literally design my argument around the argument they can't prepare for, which is
exactly
whatever argument is in race.
And sometimes it's something that comes in the moment.
You as Black. They're so busy conflating you as being Black that all they could prepare for is Black. You know, you're gonna come up there and black. So
and it's both sides. It's liberals.
Both sides.
It's both sides. It's not only. It's literally like you said. We can't argue with racists. We can't fight them. What they see when they look at me as somebody that's undeserving. They look at Ketanji and they'll say she got them dreads. She has that dark skin. She has a face that literally. Well, she's probably going to cuss us out if she makes a face or whatever the case may be. That's what the comment section say about me because I'm talking with my hands.
Regardless. And
that's why I'm like, we should not be, like you said, we should not be put in a place where people are saying, well, she contained herself. I like the way she did this. Coming from a meeting the other day at my corporate job, and the white I guess corporate manager, regional manager, he comes in and he says something, and I held my tongue for 2 seconds, and then I said something. But then somebody told me, you were composing yourself before that. Well, I was composing myself when I made my argument as well. We have to, I'm not going to sit here and be having to restrain myself, and then you pat me on the back. Every person that spoke to Ketanji towards the end, especially Senator Blackburn, the woman with the messy dog hair, she told her, she was like, I think throughout this whole time, you did a pretty good job. And then she pointed over to her family, and she discussed her family before proceeding to rip her apart as a person. You don't get to speak about my family, and you don't get to tell me that the way that y'all was cussing me out and everything like that, I was, I restrained myself. That shows, that's a good quality in me, instead of telling me that I'm pretty much unqualified as a judge. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So I think there's a bigger problem here. The problem is racism. And like you said, we can't argue with racists. We can't give them that energy.
My thing is, to me, what's a reflection of how the system works is in all these situations, right? Whether we're talking about Ketanji, we're talking about your experiences, Rebecca, we're talking about mine. We know all these people are saying us, they're congratulating you on your grace or keeping composed. So they recognize, in and of itself, they're recognizing that they know you're receiving disrespect. They recognize that what you are dealing with is disrespect, but the issue is not with the disrespect, or they're not trying to do anything to stop this line of disrespect that you're experiencing. What they do is they police your response, because they every intention of maintaining this world where, as a Black woman, as a Black man, as whoever, you have to sit through this disrespect, and it's on you to police yourself and to respond in a particular way, because that's what they're going to say. And that's why I'm encouraging us to say, who cares what they're talking about? Because at the end of the day, these people if they don't respect what you are and who you are, they can't even see you as an individual because they don't respect you and your Blackness. It does not matter how you present that Blackness to them. If there was a way to win the respectability politics dance, we would have won it. We're a bunch of educated Negroes sitting up here speaking with them, doing all this in their spaces, all of that. So if someone could win it, we would win it. If somebody could win it, Ketanji would win it. And you see how they are carrying on and how they are treating us. So it's incumbent upon us to say, you know what? Let's stop trying to meet a standard they've already told us 960 times we can't meet. And instead, how about we start living for us and treating ourselves as real people? Why do we as Black people subjugate our own feelings, experiences, and responses to white sensibilities and white response and white reaction that they're going to have anyway? Why?
Because we were taught to do that. We were taught. This is something that was literally said. Yes. So this is something that we have to unlearn. For a lot of us, this has been something that has been built from yay high. Like, me being growing up Haitian in an American world, and me being told by my parents, don't speak this language in school because they're gonna think that you don't speak English. And I didn't even speak the language in school. They just knew I was Haitian. They put me in Esau, right? And that, to me, it was systemic. That it was okay for them to do that. And I thought, don't say anything. My dad said, don't say anything. Keep your head down. You'll get through this. We had to go through life that way because, especially in that time, because we knew that being Black is a problem. But now I'm at a place where it's like, I'm thankful that we are here in 2022. I'm thankful that we have platforms like this to talk about the situation. I'm thankful that we can talk about our own experiences. And I'm thankful that we get to see a day where a Black woman is in these type of positions. And I think I'm at a point where I am tired for Black women having to sit and endure, be strong, endure and constantly endure, and never get an opportunity to sit and breathe and say, wow, I did that. Wow, I deserve.
And that's why we got to say it. And we got to say it. And we got to start it for ourselves. That's the problem. Like I say, Black women do a lot of affirming everybody else, a lot of defending everybody else, a lot of speaking up for everybody else's rights. And then for ourselves, the test is that we can sit quiet. Why we got to be an angry Black woman and an advocate for everybody else but us?
You're unqualified,
Right.
Olay, because you have an accent.
Right.
You're unqualified,
Yeah.
Olay, because you got red dreads. You're unqualified, Olay, because you make faces. So you cannot sit here and be emotionally strong in these type of environments. Because Olay, you posted a video of you breaking down in a moment where you were disrespected at your job while you were protecting a client. So you can't be qualified. Rebecca raised her voice in the middle of an interview. She can't stand in the debate. She can't sit there and be qualified. They literally took Ketanji's qualifications way back to when she was in high school, y'all, when she was on a debate team. They didn't go with what her history was. They didn't go with real cases that they kept pulling up the same two damn cases.
That's how they go.
They said that, in high school you were on a debate team, right? And then you were in college, you were on a debate team. Hell, I did debate. I am a champion at debate in high school and in college. If I knew that would get me a job in the white man's seat, I would have put that on my resume.
Listen, and like I say, as a Black woman in the legal profession, and specifically a public defender like Ketanji was, I'm telling you, she knows how that go. Because I could say to you, to get admitted to the bar in New York City, you're supposed to have this interview, character and fitness. Is after you go through this long process of giving them all of your information, everything that's ever happened in life, all your business, a total invasion of privacy to get sworn in, right? There's supposed to be a meeting. It's a formality. It's supposed to be for all the white people. That's how they presented it to you in law school. All the white professors presented it's a 2-minute thing. It's a formality. And it was like that for every white person I know. For me and the rest of the Black people I know, there are people didn't even get the interview for a year waiting to be sworn in. I had to interview white people that I know, classmates I have, white people I know with DUIs, all kind of stuff on their record. 10-minute formality meeting. I had to be interviewed 3 times before they admit me, questioning me about every Jesus thing. They are in my 9th grade. They in my high school, they all kind of stuff, looking for reasons. Mind you, I could see on the paper that I was approved and I'm supposed to move forward to approval. But yet this woman made me come back 3 different times before she would agree to swear me in. So trust me, I know the game. She knows the game. That's how it's that is how they go. That is very much so. And you know what? Listen, I make a conscious effort not to play these games. Like I went to high school in West Virginia and Florida. I went to college in Ohio before I moved to New York City. I know white people well. I have a PhD in white people and whiteness and navigating them. If I wanted to play the game, truly I would, right? If I took off my nails right now, let's make these short, let's make these beige, let me put in a long straight black weave with a side part, let me curl this, let me do my hair like this, and let me come up here, right? And they will still mischaracterize you and present you with all the same kind of foolishness and turn you into a ghetto caricature of yourself. They will always do that. And when I realized that, because for me, the beauty in that was, I'm from the Bahamas where we don't receive, I'm in no way am I a wild Negro to my Bahamian people, right? No one thinks of me like that. I'm very much so, my parents and my family are probably of the 1% in the Bahamas, right? Like I come from a certain background that it doesn't make any sense, these caricatures they associate with you. But what they do is they treat race and class and all their stereotypes and all these different things as synonymous, and then they just put that onto you. You're not a person. And what I recognize after years and years and years of being in America, fighting to be myself and confused as to why these people are receiving me this way and why they're, characterizing me, I realize, oh shit, I'm not an individual. This is about race. These people are going to carry on like this no matter how much I bend over backwards and break myself and beat me and suppress me and do this dance. So forget them. What I realize is I'm like, you know what? I will get from point A to B regardless, because this is the facts, and they could go ask Jesus, but that talent is talent and success is success, and you can be mad about it, you can say what you want about it, you can characterize how you want about it. She gonna be in that room. So I say, whether you want to cry, Black woman, whether you want to scream, whether you want to do that. Ma'am. I go out of my way. I go out of my way to be a multidimensional person. When I first started appearing on TV, my default hairdo used to be black weave, straight weave. I like that. I think that looked good on me, and I was like, no, not gonna give them that. When I'm sad about something that happened in court and all of that, I'm gonna tell you when I'm mad, I'm gonna tell you when I cry, I'm gonna tell you when I crack jokes, because I want you to see that not only are Black people, Black women, multidimensional people, we are allowed to be, and that changes. And if you see me this weekend in my halter top or whatever, you're gonna see me in the morning on Monday on the news. Okay, I'm gonna do all that stuff.
You can be. We are not a monolith. We are all kinds of Black women, and we should be allowed to do every single thing that we want. Like you said,
the same way they do.
We should be able to be upset. And then when I do, because when a white woman cries, people hear, people listen. They want to, when I tell, okay, for instance, Ben, we were in the room at one of the first opportunities that I had come in politics as a journalist. We were in the room after breaking my back over sideways for this damn company and doing what they asked me to do. And because I decided to do black stuff, focus on black women and their health, focus on Colin Kaepernick, focus on these different stories that were happening, they got upset. And because it was coming from me, we sat in the room. They didn't speak to Benjamin the way they were speaking to me. They were paying me way less than they were paying Ben. We sat in that room and they said, Rebecca, you need to stop doing these stories. And I'm like, but Ben is right here. They weren't talking to him the same way they were talking to me. They didn't like the way that we were both doing these stories, but they just looked at me and they were like, it was me. They said particularly, and that's when Ben stepped in. He was like, well, why aren't y'all talking to me like this? Like, you know, and that's when I realized it's problematic.
Black men.
Rebecca,
examples of black men protected.
Yeah, they were like, Rebecca, we saw you. You know, we handed over your video to our the head of the company, and I said, well, what'd they think about it? Well, they related it to BET, and that's when that moment I said, and then the woman who was telling me this, she said to me, they watched it on mute, though. I said, well, that's even worse. You're supposed to be in my corner. You're supposed to be having my back as the other woman in the room. And she considers herself a person of color, but as the other woman in the room. And you let these people say they watched me on mute and I gave off BET vibes. No. First of all, that's not an insult. That's not an insult.
They're not even trying to hide, but they fully.
Yeah, it's not even an insult to me. But that was when I realized in that moment I couldn't be upset. I can't wear my nails a certain kind of way. I can't wear my hair a certain kind of way. Nothing, because they're always going to characterize me as something that's ghetto. And in that moment, I said my truth. I got into their face. Ben started to speak for me, but he's looking at me like, Rebecca, you need to say something. And I said something in that moment. And I decided to just get up and walk away.
I told the dude to meet me at the studio.
The boss was so upset. The boss was so upset with me for getting up and walking away and calling me very rude for doing so. And I said, that's it. I'm tired. You're going to get it any way I flip it, because I am tired of the disrespect. You are upset that I'm doing black stories. You're already paying me below God knows what. I can't even survive on this. And I'm here doing everything you're asking me for. And you guys, and then in the middle of, when I'm not even in the room, you guys are making racist comments about me. Yeah. About what I look like. And that does not stand. So that, you know, if black women don't feel comfortable in that environment, they should be able to walk away from that too, without being looked at as somebody that's given up or turning around on an opportunity that could have been good for their career. If it doesn't fit you, if they're not respecting you in that environment, you should be allowed to walk away.
And I think it comes down to deciding what you're passionate about and what's important to you and who you're there for, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, white people have this tendency to look at things with the assumption that we're trying to appeal to whiteness, like that you give a damn about whiteness. You know what I mean? Or and you don't have to. The same way that they don't care, they do all their issues and they center it around their whiteness, their white community, their white experience. White people have this beautiful habit of acting like identity is only in the form of blackness and people of color and the rest of us. Only us have an identity. Only us are playing identity politics or trying to appeal to our own communities. That's exactly what you're trying to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. So there's nothing wrong with us doing that. And I always remind myself, like, you know, because they do the same thing to me. In law school, I'm a black radical. All my issues is blackness. I'm doing this. If I did this, how do white people like me? I'm like, I'm not here for you. I'm not here for you. You're not the person that I'm trying to be seen in. You're not the person I'm trying to speak for. You're not the people I'm advocating for. I think about things like this. Every time I get upset, every time I'm attacked, every time whatever it is, you know, I go read from scholars and people like me, people who've been down this road before. Or I go talk to black people who've been down this road before. And I remember, you know what? It's not about you, and you're doing something so much more important, and they could fight that and they could not like that. But what you're doing is going to help somebody else. Because even the other day, and I'm a grown woman, some random person I met, they were like, oh my God, I know you from the Hill. I watch you on there, da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And then they're like, oh my God, girl, I don't know how you do it. I couldn't do it if I were you, like the way they're based and the comments. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, do you read the YouTube comments? And I'm like, no, you know, I don't read them. And they were like, well, you shouldn't. And then they proceed to start telling me all the slander and the comments that they just told me don't read, that I just said I don't read for my own health, right? And in the course of that was in my mind for the weekend. And then I remember out the blue, I saw a picture of Toni Morrison dancing at Studio 54 with no bra, titties out. And I was like, yes, goddammit, okay? I was like, I am not the first one. I feel seen, you know what I mean? Like, I have people.
Free.
I am not. It's a reminder that you are multidimensional the way we all have been multidimensional. Just because they try to force Black people into this box, where not only are we not allowed to be multidimensional, we can't even be our one true self. They want us to be one maxed up version that speaks to them and whiteness and all of that. And listen, who cares? You know they're going to be racist. You know what they're saying. And just forget them. You know what the ultimate purpose is. You know what you're here for. You know what they're going to do. And it's the same thing that I see at the Beauty and Ketanji. No matter what those white people talking about in the room, most Black people I know aren't watching the hearings. They're not watching the hearings because they know. They know exactly what kind of foolishness is going on. And they don't even need that kind of nonsense polluting their brain. We know what kind of excellence she is. We know what she's done. We know what she's going to do. And let's just love her for that. Because what these white people talking about, they always going to be mad. That's what they do. Stay mad. Mad. And then tell everybody else, we can't be mad. We can't be mad. We gotta be calm and forgiving and sweet and docile, right? Let them be mad. They want to be mad. They don't have a monopoly on rage.
Yeah, it's not on, and it sucks that we had to watch this for 3 days. And I know, you know, you said, Pascal, that you've been monitoring it too. So at the end of it all, what's your takeaway for Ketanji? If you had to give her some Cory Booker energy, what would be your words to Ketanji?
I'm sorry. Some Cory Booker energy. You gotta add a splash. You gotta add a splash of corny. I'm just looking here and I'm just so excited. Cory Booker energy. Okay.
Channel Rosario Dawson. There you go.
Channel Rosario. Yeah. Don't get me started.
Because that's a tough to order, though. Go ahead, Doug.
Stop, Benji Ben. I would just say stay strong. Keep going after what she's been doing. Keep the game. Keep her mind on the game. Keep her eye on the ball. If that makes any sense.
That's giving Cory for sure.
And keep keep your eye on the ball. I'm just just what you're doing. I'm so excited for you. Just stay strong. Don't break the character, I guess.
That's right.
I mean, what you guys are saying back and forth, I'm just stepping back because you guys are just dropping truth bombs here. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I gotta say, Olay, I did try the hair thing. You were talking about the side part and everything, and obviously that didn't work out for me.
It didn't work out for all three of y'all boys.
None of us. But what I lack in hair. But what I lack in hair.
Bald and bearded.
But what I lack in hair, I have, in heart and brains. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna say.
Quick side comment. I watch this guy on YouTube called Princeton Cinema, and he covers because Black guy covers movies, and he's covering Baby Boy, and he was pointing out, he was like, you see John Singleton with this subtle bald head propaganda, bald head, good man propaganda. He's like, all the protagonists are bald and all the villain got a long head. I was like, that's right. Really, men only bring on good bald Black men.
This is true. This is true. So is that what they're trying to say about the bald Black man? The bald Black and bearded man.
The bald and the beautiful.
Bald Black bearded.
The bald and the beautiful.
The triple B's. I wanted to talk about the U.S. and how it's accepting 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. I wanted to briefly discuss that because I know on the show I have spoken about being Haitian, and I've spoken about the situations going on in Haiti. I spoke about Title 42. I believe that is something that Donald Trump put in place originally, that didn't allow asylum seekers to be able to, get their freedoms here. And then more recently, our own president, Joe Biden, who was said to be someone who was liberal for the people and who said when he was running and campaigning that he would protect the people of Haiti, listen to them, and, get them the assistance that they needed. Now, there was a war happening there. People have been protesting in the street for years. They had a situation with getting fuel, and then their assassination of their president. Also, the earthquake on top of a whole tropical storm hitting them at the same damn time. And they came over here last year around September seeking asylum. They all went through Chile, Brazil, so many different avenues, going through Mexico to get to the border over there in Texas under a bridge, hoping that they too can find refuge here. One of those people being my own cousin, who was asked why did he come, and he said, why he came. There's a war happening. I don't feel safe. There was an assassination of my president. And with the recent earthquake, I have no resources. They told him that wasn't enough, and they sent his ass right back to Haiti. Now, I'm looking at the situations that are going on right now. In the midst of that, when they sent those people back to Haiti and the treatment of those Haitians under that bridge, predominantly Haitians under that bridge, we saw them being whipped, right?
That's right.
And however they want to frame it, however they want to say it was, what it looked like, what they were utilizing, what we saw as Black folks watching, and what us Haitians saw were our family members getting whipped.
Sure.
And then our president saying they had to send them back. Jen Psaki making a statement and saying, you know, we had to send them back. There's no options. There's no opportunity for us to really keep them in the middle of a pandemic, the same pandemic that they're not acknowledging on a regular day. But in this particular moment, they acknowledge that there was a pandemic going on. And we got to send them back because this is putting our Americans at risk. So we can't keep them here. So many excuses happened. And now we have Ukrainians who are seeking refuge, as they should. And we're presented here, or they are presented here with the opportunity to come and stay, 100,000. To come and stay, free of charge. No stress. No Title 42, no questioning, nothing. And it just takes me back to a moment where I said this on the show. I said, you know, Black immigrants are treated terribly. They're at the bottom of the grid when it comes to how they're treated here in America. The darker you are, the worse treatment you get, but something about Haitian immigrants. Spoke to an immigration professional trying to get assistance for my cousin at the time who was under the bridge. And she was telling me, she said, I don't know why, ma'am, if I can just be frank with you, I don't know why. I never experienced this much pushback with any other immigrant, but you know, and even some Black ones, I never experienced that. And she was white, so I kind of looked at my phone like, lady, you don't get to say Black, but you know, she went on to say something about Haitian immigrants. They're just treated the worst. I've never seen anything like it. So tell me in this case, if you guys see a difference, but tell me in this case what it is that I'm missing where Haitians just can't get that same grace. Their situations can't be understood. And we see these Ukrainians who can come here and just be blessed with opportunity, safety, and be acknowledged as people. Am I tripping? Am I going crazy? Do I have the right to feel upset?
Yeah. No, I don't think you're crazy for sure.
Go
ahead, Pastor Galloway.
So we have a thing that we practice at St. Mark. It's called Patterns, Coded Language, and Institutions. We need to be having conversations about racialized patterns, racialized coded language, and racialized institutions. And this is a perfect, Rebecca, you have hit on the head a perfect example of this, where the data backs you up. The visual is clear. And even the tiered system. Take a look at how Haitians were treated versus how Afghans who we left hanging in our pullout were treated versus the Ukrainians. I mean, you have a color line here in this space already, let alone, you know, I'm a member of the AME Church. You know, one of our founder, Bishop Richard Allen, went to Haiti and was trying to get us to recognize that their fight for independence was similar to our fight, and it got ignored. And so there's a pattern and consistent history of you know, the darker your skin, the more visceral your experience here in the Americas, all of the Americas, but of course acutely in the United States. And so not only do I don't think you're crazy, what I think you're naming is this racialized pattern and coded language and institutional space. Because even look at the language around the situation in Haiti versus the language around what's happening in Ukraine. It does not diminish the need, or as you said it earlier, right? But it's a pattern that we need to name and feel some kind of way about. My problem is that we don't take enough time to feel some kind of way about that.
Yeah. Right there. I mean, I think I had a good maybe few days. I went on to the Hill. I discussed it on the Hill. And I feel like even in that moment, people were like, no, there not procedures that we have to follow? Do we not have to follow due process?
Right.
If Jen Psaki gets up and says that means that the president has an idea of what he's doing. It's not problematic when the president pulls up with something like this. Is it not problematic? Because this shows us that this was Title 42 is something that is drenched in racism. There is color lines here. Why can't we have the conversation and talk about the refugees that came in with no issue right before the Haitians, who were predominantly more on the white side? Why can't we talk about that? Why can't we talk about how Airbnbs were given to them? Why can't we have those conversations? No, because when we have those conversations, it causes Americans and America to actually look at the people and the representation that we had that said that they're not racist because they name themselves as liberal people. It causes us to actually put a mirror up to them. And they don't want that. They don't want that conversation. They always give us, when I talked about it, the comment section, literally, or people who were reaching out to me in my DMs were saying, you always bring race into things. I'm like, how can we not? Literally everything, every law, everything in America was built with white people in mind. They were not built with black people in mind to benefit from. None of it. None of it. So people who look like me being here is I'm black, just like everybody else. But as soon as I open my mouth and I start speaking another language, and then they figure out that I'm Haitian, I get treated like trash, like trash. My parents, now when I saw them immigrants over there, people didn't know that I had family under that bridge. People didn't know what I was dealing with in the background trying to get them to freedom. People didn't understand. People didn't know that. And I can't bring that story all the time to places like In the Hill. They're going to be like, oh, she's being too emotional. Well, actually, you know what? My experience actually is the damn story. Because I can tell you from experience. I can let you know what it looks like. What I'm dealing with right now. You're just hearing it from somebody else, but hearing it directly from me, I think it's pretty, I believe that stands. That's something that should count.
Wow.
In the same sense as somebody that's fighting for the freedoms of Haitians, black folks, black women, all of us. These conversations need to be had. And this is not saying that Ukrainians don't deserve.
That's right.
I need people to understand that this does not take away from that, because then people start to try to create that conversation that is not the narrative. That is not it. It's saying why do Haitians, why don't they deserve? Why don't the African immigrants deserve?
Come on.
I got in trouble when I said this last time, but what you just described, right? That zero-sum game, that piece of pie, it's the same thing as when an entire room full of folks, after hearing an experience like you just shared, turns to the white woman in the room who's crying and spends all their emotional time and energy taking care of that person rather than the person who's actually experienced the negative treatment.
Wow.
I think the assumption that in order to do that, we have to displace or not do the thing that we need to do right now for Ukrainians is same part of that pattern and mental process that tries to tell us that in order to address these issues, somebody's got to lose something. And that is not true. That is a tool of our white supremacist thinking that we are indoctrinated and ingrained in, to think that anything that we do means a war on white folks. That's not the case. It has never been the case. And I want to add this step further. Not only have folks not stepped up to the plate when it comes to black and brown and indigenous bodies, but we have actually seen that when we have taken the autonomous reins on our own, what were indigenous folks met with? Treaties that undermine their autonomy and sovereignty. What were black townships like Tulsa, Rosewood, Ocoee, and Mound Bayou, all these different places, what were they met with? Extreme white violence to dismantle. So I think if we got to be real about it's not, this is not just a passive pattern to go back and look at and go, oh, I forgot something. No. There is active, intentional work being done to undermine it. And I think that needs to be just as much of the conversation. And that makes folks uncomfortable because you have to own your own stuff.
Y'all right talking good God almighty this morning.
There.
I ain't got to say nothing, James. between Rebecca and Pastor, like, actually, y'all know I'm gonna say something because the conversation is so rich. Rebecca, when you said Pastor Galloway, Tulsa, it brought me up to date with the city in, I believe, Tennessee. We just spoke with the journalist earlier this week. And it may not be Tennessee, David, if you don't mind getting me the right state, where now this black town that has been historically black, but watch this, up until 2015, it was run by majority white city council, white mayors, just like Ferguson. How many cities across the country do we see where it's a black population, but with white leadership? And when you brought up the violence that Tulsa faced and how white supremacy gets in and not only destroys us when we try to get off the ground, right? We try to build a city, Tulsa, they destroy it. The immigration part, Rebecca, drives me batty because in a few years, some of those Ukrainians who you know I support, who you know I love, y'all know I'm damn near about to write a song to help them out. But in a few years in the United States of America, some of those white Ukrainians will have more privilege in this country than black folks that have been here for 7, 8 generations, right? And it's all tied together with the fact that black folks are the under society in this society that is providing wealth. We're providing resources. We're providing them swag. We're providing them with style. And as soon as we start getting some of the wealth from our greatness, well, they do what they did in that town in, I believe, Tennessee, where now after all these years being underneath white rule and white misleadership, black folks finally got in power. And you know what the white city manager decided to do? Said, nah, we're going to cancel the entire city. He wants the city to revoke their entire city charter because now black folks have taken charge of their own destiny. So that violence goes from immigration all the way to when we try to build our own. White supremacy is there to attack us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Ben, right there. I was actually watching, and if I could just have a few more moments of
take your time, sister.
Thank you.
Take your time.
So, because I got the devil in the background trying to work, but I got my amen corner right, on YouTube in the comment sections. Praise God for Jesus. No, seriously though. But I see nobody said your name. But you know what? I was watching Netflix yesterday, honestly, and on Netflix there was a show, whatever called, and I know this is crazy, but I'm going to make this example: Bad Vegan, and the woman on the show, she's she runs $1 million business. She is literally, her and this man that she meets are conning people out of money, like constantly borrowing. Constantly. The man's helping her steal money. I don't know what kind. It's weird. But the fact that she done had the opportunity to go and keep continuing to invest, investors continuing to get her money. She had that opportunity constantly, even though her history showed that this lady she's not reliable. We can't trust her with any money, right? And I kept watching this and I said, damn, if this was a black restaurant owner, if this was any, people, if they were going through some kind of psychological issue and taking money and putting it in a mysterious place or whatever, they said they were doing, and they kept asking people to borrow money and they kept getting it. They were asking their mother to borrow money and kept getting it. And I'm thinking to myself, how are the banks and investors really saying that this woman is reliable? A billionaire restaurant investor said, you're $2 million in the hole, but I really like you. So that's all that this person needed. Imagine us, black folks, that put their blood, sweat, and tears into building that white woman's family's legacy. At some point, going to the bank and saying, I done messed up with some money over here, but I would love another investment. Can you guys allow me into another opportunity, another chance? That woman was granted so many opportunities, so many chances, went to jail for only 4 months for conning people out of millions of dollars. And I kept saying, imagine if we can't even go to the bank and ask them for nothing for a house.
$30,000.
Even if we got some money, even if we got a good job, even if we got good credit. This is our history as black people in this country. Opportunities don't come to us. Immigrants who come here, slaves. All of us sitting up here who were forced, so families were forced here. You know, we ain't got no say in nothing. Created communities because we were told after we got free, we were told that we can't stay in certain towns and we can't do certain things. Created communities, and those, like you said, those communities were bombed, taken away from us. Predominantly black areas have white leadership. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
I don't think that you can. Even the founders of the AME Church, Richard Allen and the whole community, found themselves resistant to the yellow fever pandemic in Philadelphia. Served as nurses to take care of Philadelphians. Were never paid for their labor. Went to their abolitionist friends to say, "Hey, folks aren't paying us for our labor for supporting folks through all of this," and they told them that maybe they can work some odd jobs to make that money back. I mean, no matter where you go, no matter where you.
Woo. Let's go to one more story so people can realize we are professionals around here. Earth is set to have a solar eruption. It is the third near miss in a single week. They're saying this is not unusual, but researchers say this might actually be a statistical fluke. Earth is to experience a third near miss by a solar eruption in a week, according to the New York Post. I know I can't pronounce nothing. Space weather experts have spotted the sun ejecting a large mass of particles and thinks it could hit Earth in the next few days. We're so childish.
Childish as hell.
An ejection like this is known as a solar flare, and it's huge explosion. It's been fun.
So the sun just shooting out this stuff all just like that, and it's gonna reach us? God damn!
Skeet, 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 skeet,
skeet, skeet, skeet. The funny part is white people don't know what it means.
The sun is you get a solar eruption. You get a solar eruption. You get a solar eruption. Blessed be the name of the Lord. According to
bring him into
I need help, Jesus. Take the wheel. I'm not going to make it through this story. Fortunately, an ejection like this is known as a solar flare, and it's huge expulsion of plasma from the sun's outer layer. It's also known as a coronal mass ejection. That's CME. It sounds like a denomination. Fortunately, the solar storm predicted for today is only likely to be what experts call a G1 minor, meaning we probably won't even notice it if it happens. Okay.
I mean, I know. Never mind. You know what? Never mind. Just
the reason I wanted to do this. The reason I wanted to do this story, bro. It don't even matter no more. Oh man. This is therapy. I had a rough morning. That's why the show started late today, man. I appreciate y'all. That's why, listen, I'm big enough to laugh at myself because, man, this show is as healthy for me as it is. I hope it is for everybody else. I got nothing else, James. You calling the shots from here. Here, you got the helm, Doc. Where are we going?
HR people. Wait a minute. I'm not the showrunner. What the hell?
You in charge. I can't.
David, this is your cue to jump in and save the show.
I can't make it past this. All right, let me try another. Okay, hang on. Okay. So the G1 minor category of solar storm hold the possibility of causing weak power grid fluctuations and having a small impact on satellite communications. This will be the third time in the past week that a CME has almost landed a direct hit. I need y'all to be a little bit more potent, CME, because you can't miss. No, I'm sorry. We don't want them to miss.
You talking about the sun, my dude.
I know.
Dwayne, you got some B-roll with eggplant? You got some eggplant B-roll, Dwayne?
I don't.
No. Flag on the play. I draw the line somewhere.
Accurate depiction of what is being discussed.
No, wait a minute.
Just go to Pornhub and look at solar ejection. Look up solar ejection on Pornhub, and that was display out. There you go.
I just like to say good morning to all the different churches that are tuning in for the first time this morning as a part of our
hallelujah, amen, and all that good stuff. Y'all know it's natural as well too. The sun ejects solar flares,
solar eruptions, Doc.
Solar eruptions.
But you know what's crazy? All jokes aside, that was the plot line to what we're reading here is the plot line to the movie called, y'all remember the Nicolas Cage movie called The Knowing or Knowing?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh, bro.
They were predicting the future, and the final prediction was a solar ejection that actually hit its target. So I'm really joking about this. I'm super glad that the solar ejections that are erupting all over the solar system are missing its target. So that's good for humanity.
The only thing that would have made this segment better is if Bubba would have queued up Snoop Dogg's sensual eruption in the background while Ben was reading the story.
This will be the third time. I already read that. I don't have that. Nah. Dude, hang on. Let me make sure. I want to make sure.
On real talk, though, this is can be serious because this will affect all technology, and especially that they haven't talked about it a lot. And this is the third time it's happening this week. So that's why my phone's been acting stupid. A lot of my stuff, technology stuff, starts acting up and everything.
That's why I didn't get that text message.
Probably so, dude. So that's why let me stop.
That's why I left you on red. The solar ejections.
That's why that sex didn't go through.
Hey, let's call it solar entanglement. Solar entanglement. Well, go ahead, David.
While we're talking about eruptions, James, how do you feel about Daddy Yankee? How do you feel about Daddy Yankee retiring?
Daddy Yankee retiring.
Eruptions.
Oh yeah. And can you believe that? I'm really gonna make Ben a boomer now. Ben doesn't know who Daddy Yankee is.
Right. And then I got Selena. Then I got.
Oh, well, I know that song. I definitely know that song. Wait a minute. Wait. Can I just recognize? Wait. Whenever a queen comes into our presence, we gotta recognize it. Y'all, do y'all hear
back there?
The queen?
The baby.
She wanted to talk. She grabbed the microphone and tilted it down. She wanted to talk.
We got to change the tone of the show now. The baby.
Yes, no. There's a lady in the room. There's a lady, a little lady in the room. Forgive us. We are going to now revert back to being gentlemen. We got a code switch.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah.
This is what happens when solar ejections happen. Good night, everybody.
We are mighty. Hey, James. No, I got one better for you, man. Earth, Wind, and Fire. We are mighty children of the sun. Those solar eruptions. They don't really miss, do they? The sun ain't shooting no blanks, man. I'm just telling you. Anyway.
Conspiracy theory time. What if the solar ejections are the thing that causes life on other planets? So this is, oh my God, that's really terrible. Dang, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Children of the stars, we're carbon. We are carbon creatures. The sun. James, let me go outside and look at the stars for a minute. I might be able to tie that together with something, man. You was a smart brother.
Not the sound effect.
Damn it, you do more than spin records. Do more than spin records, Blue.
Before the baby started talking, we had Six Dragon Daddy in the chat saying, "Is the baby talking?"
Yeah. Well,
she
all
is
respect due.
She's talking.
Yeah.
Respect due to the queen and her presence. So I don't know this guy by name, guys, but I definitely know that song. What's the song again?
Gasolina.
Oh yeah. Nah, man. I'll be, before the pandemic, I had occasion to go and do some organizing in the club. I know that song. Yeah.
Man, that could have gone so many wrong ways because I'm just like, excuse me, I'm about to smoke so. You go do what in the club, Ben?
Organizing, bro. Listen.
Organizing. Okay.
Listen, if we are going to get free as black people in this country, we got to organize everything from the trap house to the church house. So yes, I organize the clubs.
Okay. Organize.
That's where I know the song from.
I organize the clubs too, Ben. Okay.
I organize the hell out of clubs, man. I am a proficient organizer, and we are actually like all jokes aside, no, we really are. We're organizing preachers and we're organizing clubs down in Jacksonville to combat some stuff that's happening down there. So I'm joking about it because it's really fun, tongue in cheek, but no, we got to do it for the folks in Jacksonville. So anyway,
that's dope.
Yeah, man, we lost your camera. This is good. You want to just play some music?
I'm coming. There we go.
Yeah. Folks, listen, thank you all so much. It's always a great show. Shout out to Rebecca Azor. She's not with us today, but she is definitely a part of the family. She will be back. Dr. Carl Mack, he is working on the Black Women's History Calendar. So he's putting his time there. We'll catch him when he's done with that project. Dwayne, in the background, thank you so much to the little queen. David, always, man, can't do it without you. Josh, thank you for what you do. DJ Exclusive, did I miss anybody? Because if I miss anybody, Rebecca Azor will be back soon. If all hearts and minds are clear.
My mama be so funny. She's so adorable, talking about, Bubba, you off screen. She be sending me text messages talking about, you off screen, Bubba. Like, Mama, I know I be seeing the same thing you see, woman.
When is she coming back to join us, Bubba?
Oh no, it need to be soon because she's working now, but she's like works in the morning sometimes and sometimes in the evening. I should have had her come on today because she don't go in until 5 o'clock today. But okay, I have to get her schedule and see when she can come join us.
You get us the schedule, Doc, because we need Mama Gwen to bless us as soon as she can. Yo, hey, I love all y'all fellas. See y'all tomorrow. Georgia Ford, I didn't give Georgia Ford a shout out.
I thought
love y'all.
Georgia.
Man, I'm just trying to cover all my bases. See y'all later.
Looking like Men in Black. Love y'all, meaning brothers.
Head ass.
Somebody said human love solidarity said Dwayne, baby talk closed caption is the bomb. I wish I should have had my closed caption on to see that. To see what it was saying. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much again for joining. Appreciate y'all, man, here on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show, man. Shout out to Jordan Ford again. No Mickey for joining us for Solidarity Wednesdays. Brother Benjamin, Brother Dwayne. Shout out Rebecca. Who all I missed as well, too. I missed everybody as well, too. Yes, I will go get my arm up that mama. If y'all want to send me some dollars on Cash App to go, I will, okay? Anyway, y'all, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Love y'all, mean it. Deuces.
Phoebe, we die forever. Won't be alone forever. Get through the storm together. Oh, girl, make some room. I know you still unite.